Howdy folks, welcome to version 2 of my CompTIA A Plus Core 1 practice questions. As you can see, this is meant to help you with the 220-1201 exam, but just in case you didn't know, these questions will also actually help you with the 1100 series exam as well as the 1300 series exam should it be released by the time you watch this video. And at the end of the day, the concepts remain the same. Now folks, as I said, this video is version 2. There is in fact a version 1 video as well, just in case you haven't watched that one yet. It doesn't matter in which order you watch these practice questions videos of mine, but it will help you if you go and watch all the ones that are available. Alrighty, and before we jump into that first question, guys, if you haven't done it, please give this video a like. It really does help me, so help a brother out. Give the video a like if you haven't done that. If you would like to know when version 3 of this comes out, or if I release more videos for Core 2, maybe subscribe. Right, let's get you guys to question number 1. You are busy with a server room build and encounter a big bundle of unterminated network cables. You need to figure out where each cable goes to. So this can be quite a bit of a mess sometimes to figure out where each cable goes if you've got like a gazillion of them in a server room. Which of the following tools would allow you to achieve this? In other words, which of the following tools would allow you to basically trace that cable to where it actually goes? Is it answer A, a cable tester? No, folks. A cable tester is used to do exactly what the name says. Test a cable. It allows you to see if one of the 8 wires in a network cable is, well, broken, if they're open. And it also allows you to see if a network cable is crimped correctly. So if you're trying to make a straight or a crossover cable, it'll show you whether the cables are in the correct order. So it shows you the order, if that's correct, and it shows you if all 8 wires are in a working condition. It does not allow you to trace a cable. If you're wondering what a cable tester looks like, there's a picture. Keep in mind, they do not necessarily look like this one, but this is an example of a cable tester. Now guys, this one has got RJ11 ports, which is for telephone cables, as well as RJ45 ports, which is for normal network cables. So you can test telephone cables as well as network cables using this one. As for answer B, a cable crimper. No guys, that cannot be used to trace a cable. That is what we use to get the network connector onto the cable. So once you've cut open a network cable and exposed the 8 little wires, you will need to get them in the correct order. Once you're happy that they're in the correct order, you'll need to go and cut them even, make sure they're completely even, and then you go and put them into a connector, an RJ45 connector. Once the little wires are all the way to the back in the connector, you're going to go and use a crimper to go and basically get that connector permanently onto that wire. If you're not sure what it looks like, there is an image for you guys, just more or less. These crimpers can go and crimp both RJ11s, that's for telephone cables, as well as RJ45s. Now considering that you're watching this video, you're probably going to be a computer technician of some kind, so the chances of you using this for a telephone line is extremely unlikely. And let's face it, those cables are kind of extinct at this point in time. As for answer C, folks, a toner probe. Now the first thing you need to know about this is it's also sometimes called a tone generator. Go run a search for that. You'll see there's lots of images on Google. It's called a toner probe. It's also called a tone generator. Now, I purposely did not call this a tone generator because I was scared it was going to give the answer away. That is the answer, by the way. And also because I know in the actual CompTIA exam, CompTIA tends to use weird curveballs like this to throw you off your game. Now, tone generator, guys, or toner probe, as my question says here, that is something you hook up to one end of a network cable, like the cable in the server room, if you want to trace it. So you hook it up to the end of the cable in the server room, and then on the other end of that cable, you have like a little wand. I think to help with this, let me show you guys a picture, so there is what it looks like. So you can see there on the left is the thing you're going to hook up to the cable, and then on the right is the little wand thing that you're going to have near the cable. You do not need to touch a cable with it, you just need to hold it near a cable. As soon as you start holding it near the cable, it's plugged into a tone generator, it's going to generate, guess what? A tone, folks. Hence the name, tone generator. So this thing allows you to trace a cable to where it goes. It actually is very handy with tracing cables in walls, in ceilings, and if you have like a whole bunch of cables coming together and you're not sure which is which, without having to plug them out, you just plug this little generator into the one end of the cable, the part that you know is correct, And where all the cables come together, if you're not sure which is which, you just hold your wand near the cables and it's going to start generating a tone the closer you get to that cable. Pretty cool, right? So that is the answer. Now, as for answer D there, guys, which we obviously know is not the answer, a punch down tool, guys, is also a tool we use on the actual cable itself to, well, terminate it. The crimper is what we use to get the actual connector onto the cable. A punch down tool can also be used kind of sort of in that context. It's normally something we'll use in wall boxes, and it's also something we'll often use behind patch panels. So if you have a wall box where the network cable is going to terminate, you'll use the punch down tool to get the 8 little wires into that little wall box. It also tends to cut off the excess wire. And you can use that exact same tool behind patch panels as well, in case you guys don't know. So just for reference, here's an image of what one might look like. There you guys go. At least now you know what it looks like. Anyway, folks, moving you guys along to question number 2. When working with T568A and T568B, so crossover and straight cable network cables, which of the following pin pairs remain with the same wire color? So if you go look at a straight cable and a crossover cable, you know, the basic straight and crossover cables for like Cat5 and that kinds of stuff. Keep in mind with Cat6, it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to crossover cables. So if normal Cat5 cables, which wires stay the same color? So if we look at the available options here, guys, is it A, B, C, or D? So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys the answer here is D. Wires 4 and 5 stay the same. So if we look at all those available options, out of those available options, 4 and 5 are the only wires that's going to stay the same color, irrespective of whether you're using a straight cable configuration or a crossover cable configuration. In other words, A or B configuration, as some might say. There's actually 2 other wires as well. So normally wires 7 and 8 will also actually stay the same, pair, assuming we're talking about Cat5 and stuff like that. But keep in mind, we have to choose from the available options. And out of the available options, the only options there that's going to stay the same, that will be wire 4 and 5. So we know the answer is, of course, 4 and 5. But to help this make more sense, guys, let me give you guys this image. So I'm going to bring up the 8 pins here for both connectors. So here we guys go. So on the left is one connector on a wire. And on the right is another connector on a wire. So these would be RJ45 connectors, guys. Now, if this was a straight configuration, folks, the wire colors would be the same on both ends. So pin 1, whatever color that might be, will go to pin 1 on the other end. And whatever pin 2 is on the left will be pin 2 on the right. And the same goes for 3, same goes for 4, and the same goes for all the other remaining pins here. So whatever color pin 1 is and whatever pin is on the left, that will be the same on the other end of this cable. That is a straight configuration. Alright, so I'm going to remove all these connections, all these wires now. Now, in terms of a crossover, guys, something that not everybody knows is pin 1 and pin 2 are senders. And pin 3 and pin 6 are receivers. At least when it comes to Cat5 and those kinds of cables. Cat6 is a little bit more complex than that. So pin 1 is a sender. It needs to go to a receiver on the other end. So if we look at pin 1 on the left, it needs to go to pin 3 on the right, which is a receiver. So there we go. If we look at pin number 1 on the right, it needs to go to pin 3 on the left, which is a receiver. If we look at pin number 2 on the left, which is also a sender, it needs to go to the receiver on the right, which is pin number 6. If we look at pin number 2 on the right, which is a sender, it needs to go to pin number 6 on the left, which is the receiver. So that is a crossover configuration. All the other remaining pins, guys, are going to stay the same. Whatever color they were, it's going to stay the same. So if you go look at the available pins, the ones that I did not go and connect, that will be pin 4 and 5, which is the answer there, and also pin 7 and 8. So 4 and 5 will stay the same. Pin 7 and 8 will stay the same. At least if we go look at the basic Cat5 configurations and things like that. So that is what's meant with this specific question, guys. Right, let's move you guys along. Question number 3. When working with 32-bit architecture operating systems, which of the following is the maximum amount of RAM the operating system can use? If you're not sure what the question means, guys, in case you don't know, the 32-bit operating systems have a limit as to how much RAM they can actually use. So there's going to be a certain point where you can just keep adding RAM and RAM and RAM, but if you go check in the actual operating system what's available, it'll show you've got all that RAM, but only a certain amount is actually usable. What is that amount? Now guys, this is something we don't actually really see these days anymore because everybody's running 64-bit, which doesn't really have these limits, and everybody's got a boatload of RAM. But not so long ago, 5 to 10 years ago, this was still an issue. 5 to 10 years ago, there were still a lot of people that ran 32-bit operating systems, and this was still an issue. What is that limit, guys? It is 4 gigs. So if you, for example, have 8 gigs of RAM installed, and you've got a 32-bit operating system, you'll find that only about 4 gigs of that RAM can actually be used. The last 4 gigs, it's there, but, well, tough bananas. You can't actually go and use it. Who knew, right? Now guys, this is a question I've seen him ask multiple times in the exam. It will not necessarily be phrased exactly like mine, but it will be phrased very similar to mine. The questions I've got here are not the actual questions from the exam, in case you guys are wondering, but mine do cover the same objectives. So if you go check the actual objectives on the CompTIA website, mine do cover the same objectives, and they test you on the same topics, but mine are phrased differently. So I'm going to test you on the same stuff here, and this is a topic that will be tested on in the exam. The average person gets at least one question about this topic in exam. You might possibly get multiple questions about this topic in exam. As long as you remember a 32-bit operating system is limited to 4 gigs of RAM, it doesn't matter how they phrase the question in exam, you'll always get it correct, which is my intention here, folks. Right, question number 4. When working with RAID, which of the following RAID configurations requires a minimum of 3 hard drives? So with most RAID configurations, guys, there's a certain amount of hard drives that you require at a minimum to get it to actually work. Now looking at the list of available RAID configurations here, guys, we've got RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 2, and RAID 5. Now the first thing I want to point out here, RAID 2 doesn't exist. That's a fake answer I added there just to kind of mess with you guys. Well, forgive me, I was bored. What can I do? So RAID 0, RAID 1, and RAID 5 do in fact exist. Now RAID 0, guys, does something called striping. It's used for performance purposes and requires a minimum of 2 hard drives. RAID 1 does something called mirroring. It's an exact replica, in other words, and you need a minimum of 2 hard drives. RAID 2 we know does not exist. RAID 5 does both striping and mirroring. It uses something called a parity bit, and it needs a minimum of 3 hard drives. So the answer here, folks, is RAID 5. Now to help this make more sense, let me give you guys a bit of a visual aid. So I'm going to start you guys off of RAID 0. How many hard drives do we need minimum for RAID 0? That would be 2 hard drives minimum, folks. Now RAID 0, folks, as I've said before, does something called striping, and it's used for performance purposes. So if one of the 2 hard drives fails, you lose everything. But it does give you a performance boost. So what this would look like, folks, I'm going to use letters to represent this, but in real life this is obviously going to be various files and stuff. So you can see here I'm going to put letter A on the left, letter B on the right, letter C on the left, letter D on the right, E on the left, F on the right. So basically what I'm trying to symbolize here is my data is half. Half on the left, half on the right. Or half on the one hard drive, half on the other hard drive. If I lose any one of these 2 hard drives, I cannot recover that because I only have half of my data. So these letters are just to represent your data that's going to be split half between the 2 hard drives. So if I lose one of these 2 hard drives, I will have to replace that failed hard drive and then format the remaining hard drive and start from scratch. You're going to lose everything. Now why do we use this? Well guys, we don't really use RAID 0 anymore. This is old technology. Nowadays if you want a fast hard drive, you just go get yourself a solid state. You know, it's much faster. But we didn't always have that type of technology. So many moons ago, 20 years ago or more, if you wanted speed, the hard drive was the slowest component in your PC. It could only feed your CPU and RAM the information at a certain speed. So to help aid with that, we would literally go and put 2 hard drives in that machine and have data be read from both of them at the same time, giving you more speed. So this could even be used for gaming purposes back in the day, believe it or not. Anyway, folks, let's move you guys on to RAID 1. Now RAID 1, how many hard drives do we need at a minimum? Once again, 2 hard drives. Alright, so there's 2 hard drives. RAID 1 does something called mirroring. It's an exact replica, a duplicate, a clone. What you have on the one hard drive will be on the other hard drive. So this is not used for performance, it's used for redundancy, for fault tolerance. So should one of your 2 hard drives fail, you lose nothing. You simply take the failed hard drive out, replace it with a new blank one, and it's going to start replicating back to the blank one. So the idea here is to give you redundancy so that you don't lose data. So with that in mind, this is what it's going to look like. If I have A on the left, I'll have A on the right, or A on the other hard drive. Whatever is on the left will be on the right. Whatever is on the right will be on the left. So you can see I've got the exact same letters on both hard drives. Once again, it's not really going to be letters. This is just me symbolizing that the stuff is going to be the same on both hard drives. And then as for the last one, guys, RAID 5. What is the minimum amount of hard drives we need here? 3. That is the answer, remember? We're going to need 3 hard drives. What will it look like? Well, guys, RAID 5 does something called striping and mirroring. It does both of those, and it uses parity bits. Now, in terms of what this will look like, from a visual aid perspective, so you can see here I'm going to add A and A to hard drive 1 and 2, and on hard drive 3 I'll have a parity bit. And then I'm going to go and add B to hard drive 1, and then there's a parity bit on hard drive 2 now, and then I've got B on hard drive 3. And now suddenly the parity bit is on hard drive 1, and C is on hard drive 2 and 3. So what we can see here is the parity bit is moving around. So the benefits here is RAID 5 gives you performance, speed, and it gives you redundancy. You can afford to lose a hard drive in this RAID 5 array, and you won't lose any data. You just simply go put a new blank fresh one in, and it's going to start replicating back. So it gives you the benefits of both worlds. Using the parity bit, it's able to figure out what is missing and reconstruct itself. But we can only afford to lose 1 hard drive in a RAID 5 array. If you want to be able to afford to lose more than 1 hard drive, then you're going to have to look at other RAIDs like RAID 10 or up. So that, guys, is RAID 0, 1, and 5. Getting back to the question, the RAID array that requires a minimum of 3 hard drives is RAID 5. I'm just going to very quickly get these tables out of the way, or these hard drives out of the way. So there's a bit of a reminder for you guys. RAID 0 requires a minimum of 2 hard drives. RAID 1 requires a minimum of 2 hard drives. RAID 2 does not exist. And RAID 5 requires a minimum of 3 hard drives. Right, folks, moving you guys along. Question number 5. An old telephone line uses which of the following types of connectors? So there's a whole bunch of random connectors that I gave you guys. Now, out of those connectors, which one of those is used by the old telephone lines that we, for the most part, don't even get in most countries anymore? Is it A, RJ11? Yes, guys, that is in fact the answer. And in case you're wondering what those look like, there you go. So it looks very similar to normal network cable connectors, except normal network cable connectors are also transparent, yes, but they are bigger in size and they've got 8 connectors. A telephone cable has got 4 connectors, and half the time we don't even use all 4 connectors. Sometimes we use as little as 2 of those connectors. Sometimes 3, sometimes all 4. So that is the answer here. In terms of answer B, RJ45, guys, that's for normal network cable, Cat5, Cat5e, Cat6, Cat6a, so on and so forth. B and C is used for coaxial cable, and ST, which stands for straight tip, is a fiber cable connector. Now that's something we are going to cover later again in this video. I am going to give you guys similar questions to this one later in the video again, where I give you different cables and different connectors. Sometimes I'll give you a boatload of connectors later in this video. So make sure you understand this, because this will be asked about in the exam. They will test you on connectors in the exam. They will test you on cable types in the exam. So you need to know this off by heart. Yes, it's not a Network Plus exam, but they do ask about this in the Network Plus exam as well. Obviously, in the Network Plus exam, there'll just be a lot more questions about it in that exam. Something to be aware of, guys, is with regards to fiber cables, they've got many kinds of connectors. So 3 of them that's covered in A+, and asked about in A+, is ST, LC, and SC. Those are the only 3 cable connectors that's covered in the course, and it'll be asked about in the A+ exam. There are more out there, though, but they're not covered in the course and they're not asked about in the A+ exam. They're only covered in the N+ course and asked about in the N+ exam. At A+ level, you only need to know about 3 fiber cable connectors, ST, SC, and LC. It's the only ones you need to know about. It's the only ones they will ask you about. Right, moving you guys along to question number 6. You need to block users from sharing files via encrypted connection. Which of the following ports should you block? Is it port 21? No, guys. 21 is FTP, File Transfer Protocol. So that is something that we can go and use to share files, but that will be in clear text. It's not an encrypted file sharing protocol or mechanism. So it meets all the boxes, it ticks all the boxes, but it's not encrypted, so it's not A. Is it B, 22? Now port 22, guys, a lot of people don't know this. Port 22 is actually used by multiple things. Most people know 22 as SSH, which is a remote connection, an encrypted remote connection. But what people don't know is 22 is also used by something called SFTP. So 20 and 21 is used by normal FTP, a clear text version, and 22 is used by SFTP, an encrypted version of file sharing. A lot of people don't know that. And that is in fact the answer here, folks. As for port 23, that is used by Telnet. Pretty much the same thing as SSH, except that it's a clear text version. It's an unsecure version which we don't really use anymore because, well, it's unsecure. Port 25 is SMTP. That is sending email, or at least the old school way of sending email. It's still used till this day, but it's used a lot less because nowadays people use things like Gmail, Office 365, Outlook, and so on and so forth. In terms of port 443, guys, that is also an encrypted connection, but that is specifically for HTTPS, which is encrypted web browsing. It's not a file sharing protocol, it's used for web browsing, specifically encrypted web browsing. So the answer is and remains B, port 22, which is for SFTP. We're not looking at it from an SSH perspective, we're looking at it from an SFTP perspective. Alright, let's move on to question number 7. You need to replace a faulty RAM module in a desktop PC. In other words, a RAM stick. Some people call these modules, some people call them RAM sticks. Which of the following should you do first? Now guys, I'm putting the word first in capital letters there to draw attention to the fact that there might be more than one answer here that's correct. I want to see if you know which one is more correct. What should you do first? I'm doing it like that because in the real exam they will do the same concept with you guys. Certain words in the real exam will be in capital letters, like the word first here. Other times they will use the word best or the word least or the word most. Certain words are in capital letters. Sometimes we'll even put them in a different color in the exam if you're really lucky, but I don't see that often. And that's to draw attention to the fact that there might be more than one answer that's correct. CompTIA wants to see in that instance if you know which answer is more correct for that specific scenario. Now I'm trying to simulate that as best as I can here by using the word first. What should you do first when you want to go and change the RAM chip inside a desktop PC? Should we go and remove the faulty RAM module? Or is it answer B? Ensure ESD precaution is taken. So that's electrostatic discharge. Should we ensure that? Now that's obviously something that's very important. So if you look at answer A, yes, we will have to change the RAM chip. But is that the first thing we do? Or is it answer B? Ensuring we take precaution with regards to electrostatic discharge. Is it answer C? Unplug the PC from the wall socket. Or answer D? Disconnect the hard drive. Now guys, answer D has got nothing to do with this question. I just had to go and fill that gap. I didn't want to just show you guys 3 answers and then not have a 4th answer for you guys. So I literally just sucked answer D out of my thumb. So it's going to be between A, B, and C. The first thing you need to do, guys, is unplug this machine from the wall. Safety always comes first. So if you get any question exam that's got even remotely to do with safety, safety always comes first. Now once you've unplugged this machine from the wall socket, then you'll go and look at other things like taking precaution for ESD, making sure you're grounded or that this machine is on the rubber mat, maybe use an anti-static wrist strap, And once you've taken precaution there, then you'll go and remove the RAM chip or go and replace it. That's going to be the last thing you're going to go and do here. So answer C is the first thing you do, answer B is the second thing you do, and answer A is the third thing you'll do. Question number 8. You just replaced the graphics card in a gaming computer and want to save the previous graphics card. You want to physically store it somewhere. Which of the following should you use to preserve the gaming computer's graphics card? Is it answer A, a vacuum sealed bag? In other words, put that physical graphics card into a physical vacuum sealed bag. No guys, that's going to make absolutely no difference whatsoever. The only thing you'll achieve there is there's going to be no dust on this card, but that's about it. Is it answer B, an anti-static bag? Yes guys, that's what we're going to go and use. Circuit boards, like a graphics card, needs to be put in an anti-static bag. Because if somebody touches that graphics card, they have a chance of blowing something on this card because of ESD, electrostatic discharge. And also in some cases, if you just put this card in the wrong place, it can also just blow on its own. So, very risky. Answer B is the answer. Putting this card in a plastic bag would make no difference. And putting it in a thermal bag would also make no difference. A thermal bag is kind of like a cooler box. I was once again running out of choices here. I need to put something in there. I wanted you guys to have 4 choices. So I thought, okay, well, what can I put in here that's going to throw you guys off your game? So I thought, okay, you know what? Let's put a thermal bag in there. So I sometimes laugh at myself when I put these answers in here. Anyway, it's not a thermal bag, guys. The answer is anti-static bag. Looking at question 9. You are installing multiple access points at the office of one of your clients. Which of the following channels should you choose when using multiple access points to ensure minimal interference? So to give you guys a little bit more context here, there's certain offices out there that are quite big. And obviously when somebody's office is quite big, they might possibly need more than one access point to give wireless coverage all over the office. One might not cut it. One is not going to broadcast far enough for everybody to reach. So if you're near that one and only access point, sure, you might have signal. You might have wireless internet access. But if you go far enough away to the other end of the building, you might have no signal whatsoever. So to help with that, companies will normally go and put multiple access points. The problem of that is sometimes they interfere with one another. So to mitigate against that, we put these access points on different channels. Now most of these channels do somewhat still interfere with each other a little bit, but there's 3 specific channels that you can go and use that has 0% influence on one another. They've got 0 interference on one another. What are those 3 specific channels? Now guys, this is a topic they will ask you about in the exam. Maybe not exactly like I'm testing you, but you need to know what these 3 channels are. I can guarantee you're going to get a question somehow, somewhere along the line that's going to be about this topic. And there's even a possible PBQ you can counter in the exam where you're going to be required to go and choose these 3 channels. Now I don't know if you're going to get that PBQ or not because it is randomized, the exam, but you need to know what these 3 channels are. If you're wondering what the 3 channels are, it's channel 1, channel 6, and channel 11. That's the answer here, guys. That's the only 3 channels that's got 0 interference of one another. All the other ones do kind of sort of still overlap a little bit, so they're going to interfere with one another. Looking at question number 10. Which one of the following IP addresses is a public IP address? Now folks, you get many kinds of IP addresses, and if you've done the A+ course, you probably know that. You get public IPs, you get private IPs. You get static IPs, you get dynamic IPs. You get a loopback IP, you get a PIPA, and people always laugh at me when I pronounce that. And in terms of private IP addresses, you get Class A, Class B, Class C. So it's a very long list of IP addresses, guys. Now looking at the available IPs that we've got in front of us, guys, if we look at answer A, that is a Class A private IP address normally. So if an IP starts with 10.something.something.something, it's usually by default seen as Class A, and it's a private IP. It's not set in stone that it'll be Class A, it's just by default seen as Class A. But depending on a subnet you go and choose, it can obviously be something else as well. If we look at B, that is in fact the answer here, guys. We'll get to that in just a second. If we look at answer C, that is a private IP, but it's Class B. So IPs that start of 172.16 dot something dot something are by default seen and detected as Class B. It's not set in stone, but by default they're seen as Class B. And then the last one there, 192.168.0 dot something, is usually by default seen as Class C. Also not set in stone, just by default seen and detected as Class C. So answer A is private, but it's a Class A. Answer C is private, but it's Class B. Answer D is private, but it's Class C. Answer B is a public IP. Any IP address in the exam you see that you do not recognize is probably a public IP address. A loopback IP will be 127.0.0.1, so it's pretty set in stone. And a PIPA, which I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly here, that would normally start off 169.254. something dot something. So if it starts off 169.254, it's a PIPA. It's also pretty set in stone. So any IP address you do not recognize in the exam, guys, anything that I've not mentioned is probably a public IP. So the only IP here that we do not recognize is answer B. That is a public IP address. Now, public IP address, in case you guys don't know, is something you'll use outside your home office environment. That is an IP you will normally get from your ISP, your internet service provider. It's something you don't always have control over. A private IP address is something you do have control over. It is an IP you or the user will have inside their home or inside their office. It's either allocated statically or they received it dynamically from something called the DHCP. Now, since we know a little bit more about IP addresses now, let me give you another one. Question 11. Which one of the following IP addresses is an PIPA address? So there, once again, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. Let me know down in the comment section down below if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. A lot of people say I pronounce it incorrectly, but remember, I'm not English, guys. English is not my first language. So, but I think the message still does come across. You guys know what I'm talking about. So here's a list of IPs again for you guys. Which one of these is a PIPA? Is it answer A, 127.0.0.1? No. That is a loopback IP. It is used to test your own TCP IP stack and things like that. Is it answer B? No. Answer B is once again an IP we do not recognize. If we do not recognize it, it is a public IP address. So answer B is a public IP. Is it answer C? 169.254. something dot something? Yes. Any IP that starts with 169.254 is a PIPA. That is something you will have if you actually don't have an IP address. So if a computer is configured on dynamic, which means it's supposed to get an IP address randomly from the DHCP, and if it's unable to get that IP address, then they will have what we call a PIPA. So let's say the cable is unplugged, the Wi-Fi is disconnected, or the signal is too weak, or the DHCP just ran out of IP addresses, whatever. The point is, if a machine is set to dynamic and it's unable to receive an IP from the DHCP for whatever reason, it gets a PIPA, 169.254. So if you see that, it means the machine does not have an IP address. It's a placeholder of sorts. And if we look at the last answer there, guys, 192.168. something, that is Class C. It is private. So we know what the answer here is, guys. It's answer C. A PIPA always starts with 169.254. That's your answer. Alright, let's move you guys along to question 12. Which one of the following devices is known as a dumb device and broadcasts out of all of its ports? Is it A, a hub? Yes. A hub looks the same as a switch, for those of you guys that knows what a switch looks like. So visually at first, you might even think it is a switch. But a hub, guys, is old technology. It is legacy technology. In my opinion, this should not be in the course, and it should not be in the exam because it's not something you're going to be using in real life. They're basically extinct. But since it's still in the exam and still in the course, I've got to test you guys on this to make sure you understand it and know it. The last thing I want is for you guys to get a question about a hub in the exam and not to know that it's a hub. So, yeah, a hub is referred to as a dumb device. If you go and plug in a bunch of devices into a hub, remember it looks like a switch. So you plug network cables into it like a switch. So if you plug a bunch of computers into a hub and one computer sends something to another computer network, all the computers that's plugged into that hub will receive that something that the first computer sent. It broadcasts it out of all of its ports. So it's not exactly safe. It's not exactly secure. There's no privacy here. But if you think about it, this is all technology, guys. Back in the day, people hardly had computers, let alone be on a network. And if they were on a network, they would use this for hardly anything. They would almost never use this network. Nowadays, we find ourselves in an entirely different situation. The whole landscape has changed. Everybody's got multiple devices these days, and everybody is on a network of some kind, including the internet. So hubs absolutely do not serve their purpose anymore. Back in the day, they were fine. These days, yeah, hubs don't exactly work anymore. So we need something smarter, like a switch. A switch, if you're going to connect multiple devices to it, it will only send that information to the device for who it was intended. It's a smart device. We don't call it a smart device, but it is a smart device. Anyway, guys, a hub is the answer here, in case I did not say that earlier. If we look at the router or router, depending on the country you're from, you'll pronounce this differently. I know the Americans normally pronounce this as router, and most of the rest of the world pronounces this as router. Just goes to show you how culture differs between different countries. Anyway, its purpose is to route/route traffic across the internet, which is why, well, it actually got that name. A firewall, well, I think most of us know what a firewall is. It's like a bouncer at the door. It's going to be on the edge of your network, if it's a physical device that is, and its purpose is to block the flow of traffic, or at least control the flow of traffic. Using this device, you can go and block or allow ports, block or allow services, block or allow URLs and websites. And you can also go and have all kinds of other functions. If this is a physical firewall, functions like intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, bandwidth management, and lots more. But you also get software-based firewalls, which obviously don't do all that stuff. This could honestly just be the Windows built-in firewall for all we're talking about here. Anyway, I think we know what the answer here is, guys. I'm going to move you guys along to question 13. Which of the following wireless standards operates at 5 gigahertz? Now, some wireless standards, guys, operate at 2.4. Some of them operate at 5. Some can do both. They can operate at the lower bandwidths, like 2.4. And some of them can do 5 as well. So some of these can do both. And then some of the newer standards, which I don't have listed in this particular answer, some of those newer ones can operate at 3.6 as well as 6 gigahertz even. So that will be the newer standards, not the ones that I've got listed here right now. Now, if we look at A, the 802.11a standard, guys, that one operates at 5 gigahertz and only 5 gigahertz. You'll see it says we need to go and choose 2 answers. So one of our 2 answers is going to be answer A, which is the A standard. Answer B, which ironically is the B standard. I should probably have rearranged this a little bit. So answer B, guys, runs only at the 2.4 gigahertz standard. So answer B is completely out. Answer C, the G standard. It only runs at the 2.4 gigahertz standard. So answer C is out. Now, because of process of elimination, we already know the answer is going to be A and D. Answer D, guys, is able to run at 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. But the question asked which ones can operate at 5 gigahertz. Now, the N standard can do 2.4 gigahertz as well as 5. So the fact that it's able to do 5 means it's one of the 2 possible answers here. And remember, we've got to choose 2. So the answer is A and D. Question 14. What can be used to avoid ESD, in other words, electrostatic discharge, from taking place when working inside a desktop computer? So guys, in case you don't remember, or in case you don't know, ESD is something that takes place when you go and touch circuit boards, like the motherboard, like RAM chips, like a graphics card. It is something that takes place when you touch these components without discharging yourself properly, or without grounding yourself properly. The human body has got enough static electricity in it to blow certain components on these circuit boards. Scary, right? So what can we use to prevent this from happening? Is it answer A, unplugging the computer from the wall socket? No, guys. So that will be a safety precaution, yes. That's something you should do first. That's the first thing you should do. But it's not going to help you prevent ESD. It's going to help you from getting electrocuted yourself, yes. But it does not prevent ESD from taking place. Is it answer B, an anti-static wrist strap? Yes, that is the answer. Now, in the real exam, guys, the answers you can expect that will probably be listed will probably be anti-static wrist strap, like mine, or they'll potentially mention things like a rubber mat, or they might just say grounding yourself. Any one of those things will be an acceptable answer when it comes to ESD. So to prevent electrostatic discharge, guys, according to CompTIA, if you go look at the actual course, one should use an anti-static wrist strap, but most people in real life don't use that. Or one can go and use a rubber mat, and most of us don't use that. Or you can go and ground yourself. Now, I've given you guys 3 answers, but they normally won't give you all 3 in the exam. They'll give you the one or the other. So anything to do with ESD in the exam, if they ask you what can you do to prevent it, look for anything I've just mentioned. That will be your answer in the real exam. So we already know the answer is B here, but if we look at answer C, guys, unplugging the power supply cables from the motherboard will not prevent ESD. It might be a little bit more safer for you as the technician if you're working on the motherboard, but it does not prevent ESD. And then answer D, removing the RAM modules. Guys, that's got nothing to do with the answer. I literally just added that there to go and fill the gaps because I needed a 4th answer for you guys. So I figured, well, let's just go and throw in something random. I love throwing in random stuff. Question 15. Which of the following printers uses ribbon to print? Now, guys, in this exam, as well as the Core 2 exam, quite frankly, there's a lot of printer-related questions. I can guarantee you, you will get questions about printers. The main things you need to know about printers when it comes to these exams is what each one uses to print. So this one uses this type of ink, that one uses that type of ink. So you need to know what each printer uses to print, and you need to know the basic troubleshooting steps. And then also it helps if you know what components each printer has in them. Like this one has got a fuser, this one's got a drum, this one has got this one has got that. That will also help you in the exam. Now, this particular question that I've got for you right now is going to test you on what each printer uses to print. So, which one of these printers that I'm listing for you guys uses ribbon? Ribbon, guys, is a piece of carbon paper. And the answer here, guys, is the impact printer. The impact printer, folks, has got pins that strike this piece of carbon paper. Normally, it's black or purple. And when these little pins strike this carbon paper, that's going to make an impression on another piece of blank paper on the back of it. That's how it works. Now, as for the other printers here, just since we're on the topic here, an inkjet printer, guys, being answer A, we know that's not the answer. An inkjet printer uses liquid ink to go and print. We just say cartridges, but it's liquid ink. Answer B, a laser printer uses a powder-based ink, which we call toner. If we look at answer C, a thermal printer, that printer uses a wax-based ink. And if we look at answer E, a 3D printer, that printer, guys, uses a special kind of plastic which we call filament. Alright, let's move you guys on to question 16. Which of the following network cables is 100% immune to EMI? EMI being electromagnetic interference. Now, most kinds of network cables, guys, are somewhat or fully influenced by EMI. If you bring the average network cable near a power cable, for example, a power cable will give a little bit of EMI off, a little magnetic field, if you will, and it does influence that cable of yours. It's going to corrupt data, it's going to cause all kinds of shenanigans and issues. Now, there's one specific cable that's 100% immune. Some cables are not immune at all, some are a little bit of immune, and there's one specific cable that's 100% immune. That cable, guys, is fiber optic cable. Fiber optic cable does not use copper. It's the only cable here that does not use copper. It uses glass and light. Inside this glass, it'll either be a laser or an optic light that's going to be reflecting inside of this cable, which is how they're able to get these massive speeds and these massive distances. But that's besides the point here right now. What you need to know right now is the fact that fiber optic cable is 100% immune to EMI. What they don't tell you normally is this is also one of the most expensive cables to use. So if you happen to have an environment that's got very high EMI, fiber optic will probably be the best cable to go and use, but it doesn't mean that's what you will go and use because it's very expensive. Most companies will go and use other cables like STP. STP is shielded twisted pair. It's a normal cable, a normal LAN cable. It's got a little shield around it, and it is somewhat immune to EMI. Not completely, somewhat. UTP cable, being answer A, is unshielded twisted pair. That's normal LAN cable. It's got the 8 little wires, but they're completely exposed. So if there's any form of EMI in that environment, yeah, you've got no protection whatsoever. STP gives you a little bit of protection. It's got a little shield around those 8 wires. It looks like kitchen foil, to be honest with you guys. It's not 100% immune, but it does help a lot. Fiber optic, we know, of course, is 100% immune. Coaxial cable, which is a legacy cable, also has some level of immunity. It's got a little shield in it. And then the last cable there, anti-static cable, is a fake one. I made it up. I was bored and I figured, well, let me throw a random curveball in here and let's see if anybody thinks this is an anti-static cable. If I caught you with that one, please let me know in the comment section down below that, hey, you caught me with that cable. Some of you guys will probably not get caught by that one. Maybe you know that that's a fake cable because you saw it nowhere in the course. But I made it up, and I would like to know if I caught anybody with that. So let me know in the comment section down below. Right, folks, moving you guys along to question number 17. Which of the following is the subnet mask of a Class B IP address? Now, starting with the most common one we get, guys. Class C is the most common IP address we get. The subnet mask for Class C is 22255 dot something. So if your subnet mask starts with 22255, it means the first 3 octets in that IP address will be the same. So if my IP is 192.168.0. something, the first 3 octets will be the same for everything on that network. It also means that you have got a lot less IP addresses. Class C is the smallest one out of the lot. You only have about 256 IPs, of which 254 are usable because you can never use the first or the last IP. They're reserved for network ID and broadcast address and things like that. So it's the smallest one out of the lot. It's not a lot of IP addresses available in that network. And like I said, the first 3 octets needs to be the same for somebody to be on that network. Now, if you see a 2255 in a subnet and then dot something, that means it's a Class B IP address. So the answer here is B, by the way, since we're asking you which one of these is going to be a Class B IP address. So 255 followed by 255 and then something is Class B. Only the first 2 octets in an IP address needs to be the same for somebody to be on the same network. So this Class B, guys, has got tens of thousands of IP addresses available. A heck of a lot more than Class C, obviously. If you look at answer C, we know the answer is B here. But if you look at answer C, guys, only the first octet's got 255 there. That is Class A. That is what a Class A subnet will start with. If the first one is 255 followed by whatever afterwards, it's Class A. It's the biggest subnet you can find. Class A has got about 16 million odd available IP addresses. That is massive. Absolutely massive. And only the first octet of each IP address needs to be the same for devices to be on the same network. And then the last one there, guys, has got nothing to do with subnetting. That is just a normal loopback IP address that I chucked in there because, well, I had a 4th gap to go and fill. I didn't want to just give you guys just 3 answers because that would make it too easy. So I want to give you guys at least 4 possible answers of each question just to make it a little bit harder. You'll see of a lot of these questions, I actually gave you guys 5, 6, or even more options to go and choose from, just to throw you guys a bit of a curveball. I don't want to make it too easy, this test. Anyway, without wasting your time, let's move on to question 18. Which of the following port numbers is an alternative port number for HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is normal web browsing, or should I say normal clear text web browsing? Is it port 53? No, guys. Port 53 is used by DNS, which is to convert IPs to names and names to IPs. It's not the only thing DNS does, but that's one of the main things it does. Is it answer B, port 110? No, guys, that is for POP3. It's the old school way of receiving email. It's not the only port number used for receiving email, but, you know, that is being used a lot less these days. Is it answer C, port 3389? No, guys, that is used by RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, to go remote connect to devices like servers and blah, blah, blah. So the only answer that's obviously left here is answer D, because of process of elimination. Port 8080 is an alternative port number for HTTP. HTTP, guys, normally uses port 80 for normal clear text web browsing, but port 8080 can be used as an alternative port number. And if you go look at encrypted web browsing, that'll be port 443, which we did actually mention earlier in this video. Alright, question 19. Which wireless standard, there we go again with the wireless standards, which wireless standard has a maximum bandwidth throughput of 54 megabits per second and uses the 2.4 gigahertz frequency? Is it answer A? No, guys. That standard uses the 5 gigahertz frequency. It does ironically have a maximum bandwidth of 54 megabits per second, but its frequency is the 5 gigahertz frequency, so it's not answer A. Is it answer B? No, guys. That one's got a maximum bandwidth throughput of 11 megabits per second. It does run on the right frequency, but it's got the wrong bandwidth throughput. So the first one had the right throughput, but the wrong frequency. The second one is the right frequency, but the wrong throughput. I'm doing that on purpose with you guys. The third one is the answer. The G standard, guys, has got a maximum bandwidth throughput of 54 megahertz per second, and it only runs at the 2.4 gigahertz frequency. The last one there, guys, can run at both the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz frequency, and it's got multiple bandwidth throughputs depending on how many channels you've got. So you'll find it depending on the manual you're looking at, or depending on the course you attend, or whatever, depending on the book you've got. Sometimes they'll tell you it's 150 megabits per second. Sometimes they'll say it's 300 megabits per second. Sometimes 450, sometimes 600. It depends on the manual you're looking at or the course you're attending. But the fact of the matter is all of those are correct. It depends on how many channels you've got. So if you're using one channel, it's 150. Two channels, 300. You'll see it keeps going up in increments of 150 per channel. Think of these as lanes on the highway or freeway, depending on whatever you call it in your country. If I have one lane, I can handle a certain amount of cars per minute. Maybe 150 cars per minute. If I've got two lanes, I can obviously handle more cars on that road. 2 lanes is now 300 cars per minute. 3 lanes is 450 cars per minute. And 4 lanes is 600 cars per minute. So you see where I'm going with this? Right, question 20. Which of the following types of cables can carry both audio and video signals? Is it answer A, VGA? No, guys, that's an old analog cable. It's normally got like a little blue connector. It's got 15 pins on it. And that's probably one of the most common cables still used till this day. You'll find a lot of offices have got like 19-inch screens. And the only connector that they have that will work on these screens is normally a VGA connector. It's an old school technology, but it only carries video signal and it's analog. If you look at answer B, DVI, also old technology, so it's legacy, but this is a digital signal and it only carries video signal. So it's not A, it's not B. Is it answer C, HDMI? Yes, guys. HDMI can carry both audio and video. Most of the time we'll just use it for video, but it can also be used for audio and video at the same time. So that's the answer here, obviously. If we look at answer D, dual Xeon cable, that is literally just me making up a cable again. I think what I should do for the rest of the video is I'm just going to go and add those fake answers, those made up words that I'm just sucking out of my thumb. I'm going to put that as answer A or B or C just to throw you guys as a curveball, because now you're probably going to start getting used to me making up these fake names and putting that as answer D. So I think going forward, I'll probably put that as answer B or answer C, these ones that I'm just sucking out of my thumb, these fake names I'm making up. So we know the answer is C here, guys, but just in case you did not know, the cable called DisplayPort cable, which is not listed here, it is also able to carry both audio and video. So if you get a question like this in the exam, which is a very good chance you might get a question about this in the exam, there's 2 cables that can carry both audio and video. It's HDMI and the DisplayPort cable. The DisplayPort cable is actually the newer one, but they're both equally used. Question 21. You need to configure a device with a secure encrypted remote connection. Which of the following would allow you to achieve this? Now I kind of gave you guys the answer to this one earlier when we discussed port numbers and things like that. So I might have accidentally have given you guys the answer to this. So it all depends on how much you remember from earlier in this video. So the answer has indirectly already been given to you guys a couple of questions ago. But nonetheless, let's see if you guys understand this question. We need to go and remote connect, but it needs to be an encrypted remote connection. Is it answer A, FTP? No, guys. That is clear text. So first of all, it's not encrypted, and it's not a remote connection. It's something we use to go and share files. Is it answer B, SFTP? That is encrypted, but it's once again not a remote connection. That is also used to share files. So A and B is both used to share files. Answer A is in clear text and answer B is encrypted. So is it answer C? Answer C is a remote connection, so we finally tick that box, but it's not an encrypted remote connection. So the only answer that's left here because of process of elimination is answer D, SSH. It's a remote connection and it is encrypted. It uses port 22, in case you guys are wondering. Alright, moving on to question number 22. You are busy troubleshooting the computer of a user who states they don't have access to the internet. During your troubleshooting, you notice their IP address shows as 169.254.something.something. Now, hopefully you guys remember what I said earlier in this video, what 169.254 means. It means you have what we call a pipa. Probably pronouncing that incorrectly again. Now, when you have that, it means you do not have an IP address. This could be for many reasons, as I've stated earlier in this video. If you do not have an IP address, it can be because maybe your cable is just unplugged if you're using a cable. If you're on wireless, maybe you're disconnected. Maybe the signal is too weak. It could be that there's just not enough IP addresses left because there's only a certain amount available. These are dynamically issued to each device, and once they're up, they're up. So if your device is unable to get an IP address, it will have what? A pipa. And what does it look like? 169.254. Think of it as a placeholder. It means you don't have an IP, and it's up to you or the technician to figure out why that is. So the question further states, which one of the following is most likely at fault? So the fact that this person's got 169.254, that means they don't have an IP. Which one of the following is most likely at fault? Is it answer A, Active Directory? No, guys. Active Directory is a role you'll go and install on premises on your server, assuming it's on premises, that basically has all the user accounts for your users or your employees. It has the groups, it's got group policies and group policy objects. In a nutshell, let's just say it's got the identities for your users. It allows them to log in, but it's got nothing to do with IP addresses. Is it answer B, DHCP? Yes, guys. DHCP can either be built into your router. Pretty much all routers has got this built in. It's normally turned on by default. You can go and turn it off if you want to. But it can also be a role you can go and install on a server. Either way, the function or the purpose of a DHCP is to dish out IP addresses to devices on the network. As soon as a device connects to your network, assuming you've got a DHCP, it's going to dish out an IP address to that device, assuming one is available. Now, if it's unable to dish one out, that device will have a 169.254. So that is in fact the answer here. The answer is not C, which is a web server. That is a role you can go and install also on premises if you want to. It doesn't mean it will be a role on premises, but it could be a role on premises. This will be a server role, and its purpose is to go and host websites basically. So if you have a website you would like to host on premises, obviously you'll have a lot more control over it. That's the purpose of this role. And then the last one, guys, also a role. Ironically, all four of these are roles you can go and install on a server. The last one, its purpose is to convert IPs to names and names to IPs. That's not the only thing a DNS does, but that's one of the main things it does. So when you go to a browser of your choice and you go and type in a URL address like facebook.com, youtube.com, BurningIceTech.com, when you go and type in addresses like that, your DNS doesn't actually know what that is or where that is. So what's going to happen is in a matter of a second or less, your computer or your device, whatever you're using, it's going to contact something called the DNS. It's going to say, hey, listen, bro, my user just typed in something called youtube.com. What is this and where is this? The DNS will then go and pull what we call a record. It's going to show your machine or your device what the IP address for that site is, and your machine is going to go to that IP address. And this obviously happens in reverse as well. Anyway, without wasting your time, let's move on to number 23. You are looking into a problem at a client's office where a bunch of users are experiencing intermittent connectivity throughout the day. You notice that EMI appears to be the problem. In other words, electromagnetic interference. Which of the following network cable types would best? So you can see what I did there. I took the word best, I put it in capital letters, and this time I even put it for you guys in a different color. So which of the following cables would best resolve the issue if cost was not a factor? Now guys, you need to be careful of these kinds of questions in the exam. So they'll use the word best, like I did there, which means there's more than one possible answer here. But read the question slowly and carefully in the exam. Sometimes they'll add other random factors in there, which is going to have an influence on your answer. Now earlier, I did tell you guys in an earlier question that you need to know different cable types, their connectors, their benefits, their drawbacks. Now when it comes to EMI, I did give you guys the answer to this one earlier. The best cable, which is 100% immune to EMI, would be fiber optic. Now in this case they say cost is not a factor, so the answer is fiber optic in this scenario. But remember, the purpose of my video is to prepare you for the real exam. In the exam, it's not always going to be as clear cut as my question here right now. In the real exam, they might say, which of the following cables will be the best, but remember cost is a factor. Now if cost is a problem, then fiber optic might not be our answer. Fiber optic is the best cable for the job, but it's also the most expensive cable normally for the job. So what would be very effective against EMI, but also not cost you an arm and a leg? That, guys, would be STP. So as an example, if this question said, what is the best cable, but cost is a factor, the answer would be STP. But since cost is not a factor, the answer is fiber optic. They might also mention other random variables in the exam, like we do not want to lose performance, or we don't care about performance, and that will also have an influence on what your answer may or may not be in the end of the day. So keep that in mind, folks. Now we already know what UTP is and STP and coaxial because I did explain that in an earlier question, so I'm going to skip over that for now. Moving you guys on to question number 24. Which one of the following can be used to help reduce ESD from taking place? So ESD, in case you don't remember, is electrostatic discharge. It's that thing earlier where I said the human body has got enough static electricity in it to blow certain circuit boards like motherboards, RAM chips, graphics cards, and so on. So which one of the following items I've just listed for you guys will help prevent that or help reduce that from taking place? Is it short sleeves? Wearing a shirt or something that's got short sleeves? No, guys. Totally random answer I put in there. Remember earlier I told you guys I'm going to go put in random answers that I'm sucking out of my thumb. I'm going to put them in here. And normally I would put that as answer D, but now I'm putting it as answer A because I'm just trying to mess with you guys. Excuse me, I need to have fun somewhere with you guys. Is it answer B, carpets? No, absolutely not. Carpets is the last thing you want when it comes to ESD. Carpets are very well known for causing ESD. That's the last thing you want. That's the exact opposite of what you want. Is it answer C, rubber mats? Yes. In one of the earlier questions when we spoke about ESD, guys, I told you there's 3 things that could potentially be your answer in the exam. Anti-static wrist strap, that's obviously not listed here. Rubber mats, which in this case is listed here, or just saying you need to be grounded. It could be any one of those 3 things in the exam. So I purposely put this here to see if anybody actually remembers that. So the answer here is rubber mats. The last one, plastic shields, that was just once again me just putting in random answers. It's got nothing to do with this question. And then, folks, moving on to question number 25. Okay, so this is going to be a big one, so try and keep track. You are troubleshooting a VoIP phone. In other words, voice over IP. So you're troubleshooting a VoIP phone that has been installed by a customer themselves. You did not install this. No technician installed this. They installed this themselves. So it's safe to assume they did something stupid. The customer complains the new phone, it's new, the new phone does not turn on when they plug the network cable into it. Now, in case you guys don't know, normally with VoIP phones, as soon as you go and plug the network cable into it, it turns on automatically. It's not always needed to go and plug a power cable into it. It normally receives its power through the network cable. And I fear I might accidentally be giving you guys the answer by saying that. Now, while troubleshooting, you notice that the other end of the network cable is plugged into an unmanaged network switch with UTP network cable. Which of the following would most likely solve this problem? Alright, so I'm going to tell you guys the answer here, or try and explain it as best as I can. VoIP phones, guys, you can either go and plug a network cable into it along with a power cable. Normally in the box that the VoIP phone comes in most of these boxes you'll find a very small little fly lead, small little short little LAN cable, and that's to allow you to plug your phone into your computer. Story for a different day. What you'll also find in the box is normally a little power cable. It kind of looks like a cell phone charger, to be honest. That is to provide power to this phone. Now, ideally, most companies don't want to use that because it looks unappealing when there's too many cables on the desk. So what most companies do is they hook this thing up in such a way so that when you or the user plugs in a LAN cable, a network cable into the phone, it turns on automatically. It receives its power through the network cable. Now we call that power over Ethernet, PoE. So if you want to send power through a network cable, you need to use a device that supports PoE. Normal unmanaged network switches, guys, do not support PoE. So an unmanaged switch, which is what they're using here, if you read the question again, you'll see the user is using an unmanaged switch. An unmanaged switch is the cheapest kind you can get. It's got minimal functionality. It normally does not have PoE. It's a cheap switch. You cannot log into it. You cannot do anything. All you do is you just plug yourself into the switch, and assuming you've got the correct IP address configuration, you would normally be on the same network. Now, a managed switch is one you can go and log into that's got lots of cool functionality. But it does not mean that switch provides power over Ethernet. So you need to go and get yourself specifically a switch that is a PoE switch. It actually says it on the front of the switch in most cases. There's actually the letters PoE written on the front of the switch. So if you plug in any network cable into that specific switch, that switch will then also provide power over Ethernet. Very great for VoIP phones and very, very great for access points. And access points are normally up high, where there's no power. So it works wonderful with access points. So I think you guys probably know what the answer here is. So if we look at the possible answers, should this user replace the phone? Unlikely, guys. Remember, I just said it's a new phone. So the chances of something being wrong with that phone is unlikely. Is it answer B? Replace that unmanaged switch they've got with your PoE switch. Yes, that is the answer, guys. The switch they've got there is an unmanaged switch. It's currently not providing power over Ethernet. We need to inject power into that network cable. How can we do that? Well, one way would be to use a PoE switch. We obviously now know answer C and D is incorrect. So C says replace that unmanaged switch with a managed switch. That'll give you more functionality, but that will be things unrelated to this scenario. So a managed switch would mean you can log into it, you can go and configure access control lists and VLANs and all kinds of stuff like that, but it's not going to necessarily provide you with power over Ethernet. The last answer there says replace the UTP cable, in other words the unshielded twisted pair cable, with shielded twisted pair cable. It's actually honestly got nothing to do with this question. I literally went and added the UTP network cable in the question just to mess with you guys. And if anybody noticed or paid attention, you would see I made that answer D again. Because I figured you're going to expect answer D now. And since I said I'm going to make it A, B, or C, you might not expect answer D to be the fake one. It's the fake one again. I messed with you guys. Answer D was honestly just me messing with you guys. That's got nothing to do with this question. Moving you guys along. Question number 26. You are troubleshooting a problem in a user's car. They complain they're unable to connect a cell phone while in that car. They mention a second cell phone is however able to connect to that same car. Now, which of the following settings, guys, should you go and check on that first phone? Is it the Bluetooth? Yeah, I'm going to be honest, that is the answer here. Guys, think about it. When you have a phone in a car, what does the average person use to connect their phone to their car? It's Bluetooth. You're normally going to go and pair your phone with your car. And then you can go and do hands-free. You can have your car phone for you. And you can go and link other aspects of your phone to your car. Maybe you can play music from your phone on the car. All kinds of things like that. So there's 10 to 1, some sort of Bluetooth setting that's incorrect on the first phone. Maybe it's not paired. Maybe it's paired to the second phone and it's not paired to the first phone. A lot of cars can only pair to one phone at a time, I've seen. It could be that maybe that's the issue here. It's obviously not answer B, C, or D, since I've already told you the answer is A here. Hotspot. Now, a phone can make a hotspot, but making a hotspot's got nothing to do with a car. Your car is not going to go and use your phone's internet, guys. Looking at the Wi-Fi settings is also not going to make a difference. So that would be to connect your phone to an internet connection of some kind. Maybe to give it internet. Now, in this case, we want to connect your phone to the car. Nowhere here do we talk about internet connectivity issues. And then the last one, GPS settings. Got completely nothing to do with this scenario. Question number 27. When it comes to devices with a touch screen, guys, which of the following handles the touch screen operation? So I've given you guys 4 answers there. Out of those 4 answers, what do you think handles the touch screen operation? What allows your phone or your device to detect touch and all that kinds of stuff? Is it answer A, digitizer? Yes. Right off the bat, that's the answer here, guys. In case you guys didn't know, most touch screens actually consist of multiple layers. So if you have a phone, a tablet, or even if you're lucky enough to have a laptop that's got a touch screen, believe it or not, that screen of yours is not a screen. It's a screen that consists of multiple layers. The outermost layer is called the digitizer. That, guys, is the layer that's able to sense touch. It's the one that allows you to zoom in and zoom out and scroll up and down and do whatever you do when you touch the screen. It's called the digitizer. Most commonly found on, obviously, phones and tablets, but there are laptops that also has that. There's some laptops out there, normally the more expensive ones, that's got a touch screen, and the outermost layer is the digitizer. So that's the answer here. The processor, the RAM, that's got nothing to do with this question. I literally just added those as random answers. And the stylus is something you can go and use along with a touch screen, but it's not going to handle the operation of a touch screen. A stylus is like a special kind of pen, and if you have a phone or a tablet that's got a touch screen, you can use the stylus to do certain things on that touch screen. Maybe to go and sign a document if you want to go and do signing, or if you want to go and write on your screen, you can use it for that purpose. But it's not going to handle the actual touch screen operation. Alright, moving along to question 28. Another big one, guys. So yeah, you're going to have to pay attention again of this one. It's a tricky one. So you're going to have to think here. You are troubleshooting a printer / scanner. So it's one of those all-in-ones. It's a scanner or a printer related problem that has been reported. Now the users here, guys, they report that when they print a job which is sent directly to the printer from their computer, the pages print normal as intended without any issues. So if they go to their machines from their computers and they try and print a document, no problemos whatsoever. Now they also report, and this is where the kicker comes in, this is where you need to pay attention, they also report that when they make copies at the printer itself. So I'm going to repeat the question, more or less. When people go to their computers and they send a print job from there to the printer, it prints without any problems. But if they stand directly at the printer and they try and make a copy, suddenly then these pages print with like a line on them. What could be the most likely problem here, guys? So you'll notice I put the word most in capital letters there. That means there is more than one possible answer here. I'm trying to check here if you guys know which is the most likely scenario. Is it answer A, poor quality toner? Now toner, guys, is the ink that laser printers use. So it's safe to assume this fake printer that I'm talking about is a laser printer. Now if it was toner, let me put it this way. If it was toner, don't you think it would have had the same issue if you printed from your computer? Because it is using the same toner cartridge, is it not? Why does it make a difference if I print directly at the printer? It's not supposed to make a difference to the toner. It's still the same toner. So it's not answer A. Is it answer B? The drum needs to be cleaned. Now laser printers, which is what we kind of gathered here, there seems to be a laser printer. Laser printers, they do have a drum. And after every page is printed, the drum cleans itself. This happens so freaking quick. It's quicker than you can comprehend. So after every page, the drum cleans itself. Now, it's very well known that if a drum no longer cleans itself properly, which will happen eventually over time, when it no longer cleans itself properly, we do see symptoms like lines on pages, dots, smudges, shadow images, which are sometimes known as ghost images. These are all symptoms of a drum that's not cleaning itself properly. But we've got to remember here, guys, the people said that when they print from their PCs, they see no line. But when they stand directly at the printer and they make a copy, suddenly then the line is there. So think about it. If the drum was the issue here, if the drum was not cleaning itself properly, that would have been the case even if they print from their computers. But when they print from their computers, suddenly the line is missing. So it cannot be the drum that's not cleaning itself properly, because how can it work one moment and the next moment not? Makes no sense. So it's not answer A, it's not answer B. B was plausible, but it's not the answer. Answer C, the scanner glass is scratched or damaged. Yes, guys, think about it. When you print directly from your computer, or the users print directly from the computer, the printer just prints it. But when you stand at the printer / scanner and you make a copy, how does it make that copy? Now, whether you're using a flatbed scanner or whether you're lucky enough to have one of those top feeders, either way, the way that printer makes that copy is it scans the document first. it goes across the scanner first, and after scanning the document, then it prints it. It doesn't know what it needs to print until it scans the image. Now, if this glass is scratched or it's got a line on it, you will see that line on the document when you try and make a copy. When you print directly from the PC, it's not going to get scanned the document, so it's not going to go across the glass, which has got this scratch or line across it, which is why you don't see it. But if you're at the printer and you try and make a copy, the copy will have to be scanned in first so that it knows what it needs to make a copy of first. When it gets scanned, it goes across the scanner, across the glass, and it's going to scan in that line which is on the glass. If the glass is cracked, it's got a scratch, it's got a line, or it's just plain dirty, any of that will be seen on the document that you're scanning, which is why this is the answer. If we look at the last one, we know that's not the answer, obviously. One of the rollers is smudging the papers. Now, rollers don't natively smudge papers. Normally, if rollers start failing, it causes a paper jam. But they don't normally cause smudging, so we can already rule it out because of that reason. But even if it was hypothetically the rollers that was smudging this, it doesn't explain the fact that it only happens when you stand at the printer and not when you print remotely. It doesn't explain that. So the answer is and remains C, folks. Question 29. A company is currently using usernames and passwords combined with OTPs as a means for users to authenticate. Which of the following options can be added to the current security to make this three-factor authentication? So first of all, guys, authentication, in case you guys don't remember, is to prove you are who you claim to be or what you claim to be. I am the owner to this account, or I am the owner to this device. There's many categories, and each category is called a factor. One category of factor will be something you know, something like a password, a PIN, or a phrase. A second category of factor will be something that you have or possess physically on your person. Bank card, smart card, thumb, fob, or even your phone. The phones normally receive a one-time PIN, or they might potentially have an app on them that you need to go and authenticate on, but the phone still represents something that you've got physically on your person. There's a third category of factor, which is normally something that you are. It's biometric in nature. There will be things like a fingerprint scan, retina eye scan, facial recognition, voice recognition. Now, the three categories of factors I've just mentioned, guys, are the three most common ones and the most widely used ones. They're not the only ones out there, though. There's many. I can think of 6 right now in this moment. Anyway, guys, so if we look at what they're currently using there, the company is currently using usernames and passwords, so that counts as one. It counts as something that you know. A password or username is something you or the user knows. And it's currently combined with OTPs, which represents something that you have. Where do you receive an OTP? On something like a mobile device, a phone. And that is something that you have. So currently, if we look at the factors or the categories we've got something that we know, and we've got something that we have. Now, if we go and add another authentication that happens to fall into those same categories, it's not going to be 3-factor, it's still just going to be 2-factor. At the moment, we've got multi-factor, but it's specifically 2-factor authentication at the moment. So to get this to be 3 factors, it needs to fall into 3 different categories. So if I ask you now for a PIN, if we look at answer B there, a PIN represents something that you or the user knows. So if I go and add that as an extra authentication, we would technically still just have 2-factor authentication. We'll have usernames and passwords, which is something I know. We'll have that PIN number now as well, which is still something you know. It's not a new category. And then, of course, we'll have the OTPs, which is something you have. We need 3 different categories for this to classify as 3-factor authentication. So if we look at answer A, authentication apps on the user's devices. So this could be something like the Microsoft Authenticator app, the Google Authenticator app, something along those lines. That is a very good security. It's a very secure security, but it's not going to be a new additional factor because at the moment they're using OTPs, which represents something that they have. An app or an authenticator app of some kind will still be on a mobile device, potentially, and it still represents something that you have. So it's not a new category. A is the same as what they have. So the app is the same as the OTPs. If we look at answer B, the PIN, that is also something they have already. They have already got usernames and passwords, which is something they know. A PIN is something you know. So it's not a new category. So it's not A, it's not B. If we look at answer C, guys, a fingerprint scan, that is the answer. It's biometric. It's something that you are. It's a new category we do not have yet. At the moment, we've got something we know and something we have. The fingerprint will be something that you are. It's biometric in nature. So answer C is indeed the answer here, guys. And if we look at the last one, smart card. A smart card is once again something that you have. And like we said, we have something that we have. So that's not going to work. The answer is and remains C. Alright, if we look at question number 30 here, guys. What is the third step in the troubleshooting model? Now, please take note, the troubleshooting model is also often referred to as the troubleshooting methodology. Now, an A+, if you go look at the current version of A+, being the 1100 series and the 1200 series, at the moment, there's 6 steps in the troubleshooting methodology or the troubleshooting model. Now, in those 6 steps, what is the third step? So this troubleshooting methodology, in case you guys don't know, is what the average technician like me and you would go and use to troubleshoot a problem. This could be, for example, a problem with a computer or a server. Let's imagine for a moment it's a computer problem. Now, whether this be my computer or a user's computer, what are the 6 steps that one would take to solve this problem? Now, if we look at the steps here we've got in front of us, guys, that coincidentally is all 6 steps, but I've purposely mixed them up for you guys. So at the moment, the third one on that list is not necessarily the third step. Do you guys know what the third step is? So I think to help aid with this, guys, the first step that one would take is to identify. Now, to help aid with this, guys, I'm going to add the list here on the right hand side for you guys again, but in the correct order. So your first step is to identify the problem. We first need to figure out what the problem is. How you do that, that's up to you. The most common way would probably be to ask questions. So if there's a user, you can ask them questions like, when did this problem start? What are the symptoms? Have you recently installed or uninstalled any hardware or software? Questions like that. So that is the first step. The second step is to establish a theory based on what you've learned in the first step. So if the user said, my machine does not want to start, and this is now ever since we had that lightning storm last night. So my theory here might be that maybe there was a power surge because of the lightning storm. And this power surge potentially knocked out the power supply unit or potentially fried the motherboard. That's my theory. Yet to be confirmed though. So that is step 2. Step 2 is to establish a theory based on what you've learned. Step 3, which is what this question is about, is to test your theory, guys. That is the answer. Now, considering I just said, the user said the PC does not want to start, I'm just going to carry on with that example since I've restarted this. So they say their PC doesn't want to start ever since the lightning storm. My theory is it's potentially the power supply or potentially the motherboard. So I'm going to start at the one that's the easiest, which is the power supply. I'm going to unplug the old power supply. You don't even have to remove it, just unplug it. Take a new power supply, or one that you know for a fact is working, plug that sucker in, plug a power cable into it, and see if the PC starts. If it does, ta-da, you've confirmed it's the power supply. If it does not start, it doesn't mean it's not the power supply. It could potentially be the power supply and something, but at least you know it's not just the power supply alone. So now you can go and proceed to try the motherboard, and so on and so forth. So you get the idea. That will be step 3, guys. Now, assuming, I think for the purpose of this demonstration, let's assume the power supply did end up being the problem. So now if I verify that the power supply is the culprit that has failed in this particular scenario, what would be step 4? Step 4, in case you guys are curious, we already know the answer was step 3. Step 4 is to establish a plan of action and implement a solution. So if you look at something like a power supply, my plan of action here would probably be to inform the user or the customer first, ma'am, sir, the problem is your power supply. And the correct course of action here would be to replace it, not to fix it, to replace it. It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's easier, it's safer, it's just, we just normally replace them. We don't go and fix power supplies. You can, but it's not worth it. So I need to go and establish a plan of actions to inform the customer or the user, and I need to get their permission to proceed. So if it's my own company, I probably don't need their permission, because my job would just be to get them up and running as quickly as possible. But if it's a customer or client, you don't want to just go and replace that, and then afterwards they say, hey, I didn't give you permission. So you first get their consent to proceed with the fix. You tell them what it's going to cost and how long it's going to take. So that's step 4. Step 5 is after you fixed everything, you verify that it's working. I don't care how many times you've done this in your life and how much experience you've got, you always test. You never assume, guys. One day is one day, and you're going to assume something is working, and you're going to make a fool of yourself or your company. You test it. You verify that it's working. And on that note, what I want to add on here, which is not technically a step here, is get the customer to see it as well. So once you verified on your own that this fix or whatever is working, get the customer or the user or the client to see it, get them to sign for it and acknowledge it. Because customers and users and clients love turning around afterwards and saying, yo, it's not working, or ever since you had my machine, it's no longer working. You make them sign for it, because then they can turn around and change their story afterwards. And then, folks, the sixth and the last step here is just to document your findings, your actions, and your outcomes. Not all companies and people do this, but it does help from time to time to do this. So later down the line, if you've got a similar problem, and you know for a fact you've had this problem before, but for the life of you, you cannot remember what the problem was, and you cannot remember what the solution was. It's always nice to be able to go back through your notes and see, oh, last time I had the symptoms, this is what the problem was, and this is what the solution was. It also helps your colleagues. If you've got other colleagues around you that's got a similar problem, they can just go through your notes and they can see what the problem was and what the solution was. So there is the 6 steps, guys. That is the correct order of the 6 steps. And with regards to this question, the third step would be test the theory. Alright, moving on to question 51. What is the minimum number of hard drives required to run RAID 5? Now, I hope you guys paid attention previously in this video, because previously I explained RAID 0, RAID 1, and RAID 5. There's other ones you get as well, but I did explain 3 of them. Now, in terms of RAID 5, I hope you guys can remember what the minimum amount of hard drives is to run RAID 5. Is it answer A, 1 hard drive? No, you cannot run any RAID on that. Is it answer B, 2 hard drives? No. So that will be RAID 0 and RAID 1. Is it answer C, 3 hard drives? Yes, you need 3 hard drives to run RAID 5. A minimum of 3 hard drives. 5 hard drives will be things like RAID 10 and so on, you know, the higher tier ones. Moving on to question 52. Which of the following wireless 802.11 standards supports only the 5 GHz frequency? So be careful. I'm not asking you which of these standards supports the 5 GHz frequency. I am asking you which of them only supports that. That and that alone. So this time around, I'm going to give you guys a longer list. So unlike before in this video where I only gave you guys 4 standards to go and choose from, this time around I'm giving you 6 standards to choose from. And believe it or not, that is still not all of them. Now if we look at the first one, the A standard. Yes guys, that is one of the 2 answers we need to choose here. You can see I'm requiring 2 answers from you guys. So the first one supports 5 GHz and 5 GHz alone. If we look at answer B there, the B frequency, that supports 2.4 and 2.4 alone, so no, it does not meet my criteria. So far the answer remains just A. If we look at answer C, the G standard, it supports 2.4 GHz and that alone, so we can rule that one out. If we look at answer D, the N standard, it supports 2.4 and 5 GHz, but remember the question said supports only 5 GHz. We're not trying to check which one supports it in general as an extra. We want to see which standards here only works on 5 GHz and 5 GHz alone. N can potentially work on 2.4 as well, so that technically eliminates it. So it's not the answer D. If I in general asked you which one supports 5 GHz, then yes, D would have been one of your answers. But I'm not in general asking you. I'm asking you which ones only support 5 GHz. So be careful of that kinds of nonsense in the exam, guys. Read your questions slowly. Read them carefully. If we look at answer E, the AC frequency, guys, supports 5 GHz and 5 GHz alone. So that would be my second answer. So my answers here is answer A and answer E. Now in case you're curious, the AX standard being the last answer there at the bottom, it supports 2.4 and 5 GHz, just like the N standard. Now to help to put this into context, let me add this next to each standard for you guys. There you go. That gives you a better idea of which ones support 5 alone and which one supports 2.4 alone, and which one supports 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. So if I just in general asked you which standards supports 5 gigahertz, that would have been answer A, answer D, answer E, and answer F. But since I asked you guys in this instance which ones only support 5 gigahertz, that eliminates answer D and answer F. It's only answer A and answer E, if you look at that extra information I've just given you guys. Now it's worth noting, which is not 100% related to this is beyond the boundaries of A+, but it's worth noting if you look at your latest frequencies like the AC standard and the AX standards, those do support 3.6 GHz and 6 GHz as well. So if you look at the AC standard, specifically Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E, it supports 3.6 GHz and 6 GHz as well. I'm not going to add that here because it's unrelated to A+. It's actually almost beyond N+ level. If you look at the AX standard, that is known as Wi-Fi 7. And that does, believe it or not, also support 3.6 GHz and 6 GHz in general. Not related to A+ though. So I'm going to only add what you need to know here, which is the stuff that's in blue. Alright, moving you guys on to question 53. Which of the following uses port 8080 as an alternative port number? Now I did somewhat touch on this topic earlier in this video, so hopefully you guys paid attention. I tend to do that because I know the exam's going to do that. They will ask you the same topic over and over and over, but they'll rephrase their questions to see if you actually understand the topic or the question, or if you're just guessing your answers right, which is why you'll see them covering the same topic multiple times. I need you guys to understand this, not memorize it, just you need to understand this. So if we look at the following answers, guys, which one of those, and I'm adding 2 extra answers there just to make it a little bit more difficult, which one of those uses port 8080 as an alternative port number? So in other words, it's not the only port number. If we look at FTP, guys, that uses port 20 and 21. So it's not that. If we look at SFTP, it uses port 22. If we look at HTTP, it uses port 80 as its main port number and 8080 as its alternative port number. So that's in fact the answer here. If we look at HTTPS, it uses port 443. It's an encrypted web browsing session. If we look at Telnet, it uses port 23. And if we look at the last one there, guys, SSH, it uses port 22. The same as SFTP at the top. They share the same port number, in case you don't remember. Alright, let's move you guys on to number 34. A client reports that the keys on the keyboard of their 8-year-old is giving issues. You inspect the keyboard of the 8-year-old and see no damage on the keyboard. When you open a word processing program, you notice that not all the keys are registering. So in other words, you've opened something like Word or Notepad or something on a computer, you're pressing all the keys on the keyboard and you notice that some of them are working and some of them are not. Which of the following is most likely the problem? So I'm putting the word most in capital letters there because I want to draw attention to the fact that there might be more than one answer here, guys, that is correct. I'm trying to see if you know which one is more correct. Get used to that because they're going to do that in a real exam to you as well. I'm trying to simulate the real exam as much as I possibly can here. I need to get you guys ready for the real exam because they're going to throw the same kind of curveballs there, so get used to it. I know you don't like it, but get used to it. Now if we look at answer A there, guys, sticky keys are turned on. Now sticky keys, that doesn't do that. Sticky keys does something entirely different. Go and look that up. If we look at answer B, the keyboard is dirty and needs to be cleaned. Very plausible. That is the answer, guys, because think about it. We're dealing with an 8-year-old here. 8-year-olds, I mean, I've got an 8-year-old. He just turned 9 now. He's got this tendency to eat over his keyboard, and he makes a mess over the keyboard. And he's got a laptop, a gaming laptop. His gaming laptop keyboard doesn't really work anymore because he keeps eating over the freaking thing. So it's at a point now where I had to go and buy him a desktop keyboard, plug that into his laptop and have him use that. Guess what? It's doing the same thing now. So I've had to buy him multiple desktop keyboards now because he keeps making them dirty, keeps eating over them and all that. And what happens over time is some of the keys stop working. Sometimes they work, but they get sticky. The key gets stuck, and you'll see the same letter going over the screen over and over and over. It just gets stuck. So the answer here, guys, is the keyboard needs to be cleaned. Assuming you're lucky enough to be able to clean it, but we're not going according to that. We're going according to what we have available as answers. And the answers that we have available is to go and choose that the keyboard needs to be cleaned. If we look at the other answers, which we know is not the answer, the BIOS settings are incorrectly configured. Guys, that's got nothing to do with this question. It's just me trying to be funny by adding a curveball there. Answer D, the laptop is not fully charged. Also completely unrelated to this question. How will charging the laptop make a difference with your keys? It's not going to make any difference. Question 35. One of your clients has an office building with a network that contains 2 network switches, which are linked to each other with fiber cable. So that's probably going to be like a backbone of sorts. All the computers in the network are connected to the 2 switches. What kind of network does this client have? Alright guys, so this is in the same building. We've got 2 network switches in there, a bunch of computers, and these computers are connected to those 2 switches that we find in this one and only building. What kind of network is this? Is it answer A, a GAN, GAN, which stands for Global Area Network? No guys, that's probably easily the biggest kind of network you can find. So an example would be the internet as we know it. So it's absolutely not a GAN. That's way too big for what we see in this description. Is it answer B, a LAN, Local Area Network? Yes, a local area network, guys, is we've got 2 computers or more connected via something like a LAN cable as an example, and this is usually going to reside in one building. It's not limited to one building, but it'll usually be within one building. Your house, your office building. So the answer here is LAN, in case you guys don't know. If we look at answer C, which is not the answer, PAN, Personal Area Network. A lot of people don't notice, but that's actually the smallest kind of network you can get. So if I have, let's say, a desk in front of me with a laptop or a desktop on that desk, if I go and directly connect something to that laptop or desktop of mine, something like my phone, my printer, that would be an example of a PAN. Basically anything that's within arm's reach that can fit on my table that directly connects to my laptop or desktop, that forms part of my PAN. But should I go and do something like adding 1 extra computer on a different desk? Now you've got yourself a LAN. So PAN is the smallest network you get. If we look at D, a WAN, Wide Area Network. Very big network, guys. So you get PAN, which is the smallest. Then you get LAN. Then you get MAN, which is not mentioned here. Then you get WAN. And then you get GAN. GAN is the biggest you get. WAN, Wide Area Network, could potentially be in the same town or city. It could span across multiple towns or cities. It can even span across multiple countries. It can cross borders. So maybe I've got a branch in one country, country A. I've got a branch in another country, country B. And I've got a third branch in country C. If I go and link these branches together, via long range, let's say wireless communication, that could technically be seen as a WAN. Anyway, folks, moving you guys along to number 36. Scalable services is provided by which of the following cloud computing services? So what I'm trying to test here is to see how good you guys are of cloud. Now they will test you on cloud in A+ exam, guys. Make no mistake. There's a whole section in one of the modules which is just about cloud and virtualization and stuff like that. In this instance, we're not talking about virtualization. We're talking about cloud in general. So you will have to be familiar with the basic terms of cloud. All 4 of those answers I've listed, guys, are not made up. All 4 of them are in fact real. They are all 4 related to cloud, which is why I chose those 4. There's other ones as well. So all 4 of those answers is something they could potentially ask you about in the exam, and it is something you need to know and understand in the exam. How will they phrase the questions? Well, I can't tell you that. You're going to have to go and write the exam, but I can tell you guys it will be in the exam. So starting with the first answer there, resource pooling. Resource pooling, guys, comes down to the fact that you are sharing resources with other people in the cloud. So if I go and host something in the cloud, let's say on Microsoft servers or Amazon servers, that's something that I'm hosting on their servers. It's sharing that server with other entities, other personal people or other companies out there in the world. So if I'm hosting, for example, a virtual machine on one of Microsoft servers, that virtual machine is using their RAM, their hard drive space, and their CPU cycles, but that physical server on which my virtual server is running, it is being shared by other entities out there in the world. Now, we don't have to worry about data leakage and things like that, but if you are concerned about that kind of stuff, you can obviously go and throw some money at the problem and get yourself a dedicated server. But for the most part, by default, you will be sharing resources with other people and other entities out there in the world. That's called resource pooling. That is not the answer here. The question is about scalable services. So which one of these four answers at the bottom is got to do with scalable services? It's not answer A. The answer, in fact, guys, is B. Rapid elasticity. We refer to what they call the rubber band effect. If you go look in the cloud, guys, and I'm not just talking about Microsoft here. This is Microsoft, it's Amazon, it's all of these big, well-known cloud entities. They have a lot of resources, like stupid amounts of resources. So if you need something, it's immediately available. You can very quickly, nearly instantaneously, scale up or scale down. If you still don't know what that means, imagine for a moment you've got a virtual server running in the cloud. This virtual server of yours has got maybe 32 gigs of RAM. Very suddenly I realized, oops, I need more RAM. If this was on premises, yes, you can go and give that server more RAM, whether it be virtual or physical, but it takes time. You're going to have to go and acquire more RAM first. That takes time. Maybe the budget doesn't allow it. You've got to get it approved. And let's not forget, you're going to have to arrange downtime, and you're going to have to wait until after hours or even potentially until a Friday or something. So we've got all those factors to consider on premises. In the cloud, we don't have to worry about those things. We're not limited by those things. In the cloud, if I see I'm running low on something like RAM as an example, I can nearly instantaneously go and add more RAM to my server while it's running, I might add. So that's hot swappable. And if I see I no longer need that, I can always go and reduce it while it's running. Nearly instantaneous. So you can go and scale up or out. You get scaling up and you get scaling out. Scaling up is to add resources to your existing servers. So I'm going to go and add RAM, add storage. Scaling out is to add more servers. So instead of adding resources to my server, I literally go and add servers. That's scaling out. Now, whether we're scaling up or out, or back down and back in, either way, it's nearly instantaneous, very quick, very easy, and I might say very cheap. On premises, it takes forever to do that. You're going to have to get it approved, there's going to be issues, and once you've done it, you can't always go back. You're stuck with those resources now. Anyway, so the answer is B. If we look at answer C, guys, on demand, it's also a benefit, a feature, or a function you get in cloud. It means whatever you need is immediately available. It's not like on premises where I've got to go and order it first, build it first, install it first, deploy it first, get permission first. In the cloud, anything you want is there, ready to be used. You just need to go and get it. It's immediately available. So they've got that benefit for you. And then the last one, it's called metered. Anything in the cloud, this is not just Microsoft, guys. In the cloud, you only pay for what you use. If you don't use something, you don't pay for it. They've got what we call a per minute billing system. If you go check how much something will cost you, or how much something is currently costing you, it's going to show you what it's costing you per hour or will cost you per hour. But in reality, in the background, they're actually billing you per minute, which is great. So if I'm not using something, I can go and turn it off or delete it, and I'm not going to pay for it. But even if it was running 24/7, let me tell you guys, it's still cheaper versus having it on premises. I kind of sound like I'm selling you guys something, but the fact of the matter is, in the cloud, it generally is beneficial. Almost everything in the cloud is usually better. I wouldn't go as far as to say everything is better. It's just almost everything in the cloud is better. Now on premises, if I go and build something, buy something, upgrade something, I'm stuck with that, whether I need it or not. So maybe in this instance, I'm going to go and upgrade my server with more RAM. Great, I'm going to pay for that. It's going to cost me a lot of money. But now maybe 3 months later, I don't need all that RAM. Can I go and downgrade it again? No, you already paid for it. So it's pointless to go and take the RAM chip out because you've already paid for it. So you might as well go and use it then. In the cloud, however, if you need more RAM, you go and add more RAM. As long as you have got that extra RAM, you'll be paying for it. Still not as much as on premises. And when you no longer need that extra RAM, you can just take it out, reduce it, and you're not going to pay as much as you previously did. So in the cloud, the benefits are there. If you don't use something, turn it off, delete it, or reduce it. And you're going to pay a lot less. That's what metered means in the cloud. Alright, moving you guys along to question 57 here. One of your clients just returned home after a holiday. They complain they're unable to browse the internet. Now on its own, that could mean anything. It can be a lot of things. They are, however, able to access the local intranet, not to be confused with internet. Intranet is an internal network inside your home or inside your business. It's got nothing to do with the internet. So when it comes to your intranetwork, you might have your own internal servers and things like that. So they're able to access resources in their local intranet. During your troubleshooting, you try to access a well-known website by name, but you get no reply. So in other words, you open the browser, you type something in the browser like youtube.com, facebook.com, BurningIceTech.com. You type something like that in there and you get no reply. The page does not want to load. Now when you proceed and you try to ping the same website, in other words, you're going to go and type in ping space and then the IP address or the name, probably the IP address of that website in command prompt. When you try and ping the website, you do get a reply. Now guys, that is confirmation you do have internet, or the user has internet. So we know it's not an IP address issue, we know it's something else. Now which of the following command prompt commands will most likely solve the problem? Is it answer A, ipconfig release? No guys, release is a command you run in command prompt to release your current IP address if it has expired. Now this IP is definitely not expired, because if it was, you would have no internet connectivity. And if we look at answer B, ipconfig renew, that is a command you normally run after the release command to ask for a new IP address, or if you just don't have one. We know we have one, we don't need a new one, because the fact that we are able to get a reply means we have an IP address. No need to release it, no need to renew it. So it's not A, it's not B. Is it ipconfig /flush DNS? Yes guys, your DNS cache on your local machine is outdated. The name and the IP address is a bit of a mismatch at the moment. So the fact that you are able to ping the website, but if you go type the name of the website, it doesn't work. So your DNS cache on your PC is remembering the wrong IP for that website address. So when you go and type in, let's say, facebook.com, your PC remembers an IP address for that name, but the IP address it remembers is potentially the wrong IP address. There's a chance that that website went and changed its IP, or something about this website changed, but your PC still remembers the wrong credentials, the wrong IP address for that website. So you need to go and tell it to go and ask the DNS all over again for the new address. It's kind of like you trying to visit your friend's house, but your friend did not tell you that they moved. Now if your friend did not tell you that they moved and they ask you to come over, you're going to go to their old house and there's going to be nobody there. So you need to go and contact your friend all over again and say, hey, listen bro, where are you? What is your address? You need to get their new address. And that's what we're trying to force this PC to do. We're trying to force this computer of this user to ask the DNS all over again what the address is for that site they're trying to visit. And to do that, we need to give this PC amnesia, in digital terms. So we need to go and wipe its short-term memory. And to do that, we go and run a command which is called flush DNS. That is the answer. Answer D, no. ipconfig /all guys is going to show you information. It doesn't actually do anything. It just shows you networking information about this machine. It'll show you this machine's IP address, its subnet mask, its default gateway, its DNS. It's going to show you whether it's got a dynamic IP or a static IP, whether it has been assigned or not, that kinds of stuff. But it doesn't actually do anything. Alright folks, let's move you guys on to question 38. Which of the following components would not generate a BIOS beep code if it's faulty? Alright, so guys, for this to make sense, you probably know what a BIOS beep code is. So that's if the PC starts up. Normally this is most noticeable on a desktop PC. So as soon as you press the power button, after about 1 or 2 seconds, you'll hear one short beep. That, guys, is called POST. P-O-S-T. Power on self-test. And this is basically the machine checking itself, checking if various components are present, hardware components, and also checking if they are in what we call a working condition. Now, if certain components are missing or if they're faulty, you would get what we call a BIOS beep code of some kind. So instead of one short beep, you'll get lots of rapid beeps or one long continuous beep, indicating that there's some sort of hardware problem. Now, there is certain hardware components that does not generate a BIOS beeping code. Which ones is that? Now, I've got a list of 4 items down below for you guys. Out of those 4, 3 of them will generate a code. 1 of them will not. There's actually multiple ones that will not cause a BIOS beeping code to generate, but I'm only listing 1 for now. So out of the options down below, guys, RAM. If it is missing or faulty, would it generate a code? Yes, it would. That's not the answer. We're looking for one that would not generate a code. RAM, if missing or faulty, will generate a code. So it's not answer A. Answer B, the CPU. Well, guys, if that's missing or faulty, it's also going to generate the code. So it's not answer B. Answer C, GPU. In other words, graphics processing unit, your graphics card. It will also generate a code. So by process of elimination, you probably know what the answer here is. It is PSU, power supply unit. So the little boxy that gives your machine power, think about it, guys. If it's faulty, it's not able to provide power to your machine. If it's not able to provide power to the machine, how would it generate the code to begin with? Makes sense, doesn't it? Now, guys, in case you don't know, the speaker that actually generates this code, it's located on the motherboard in most cases. So, with that being said, if the motherboard is faulty, it would also not generate a code. So the motherboard's not listed here, but it's something I do want to point out. If the motherboard or the power supply, if either or of them are faulty, you're not going to get a code. It's also worth noting that certain components like hard drives would actually give you no code, because the PC can in fact start up without a hard drive, just FYI. Alright, let's move you guys on. Question 59. One of your clients is working on something very important. Their internet connection goes down and they urgently need to get back online as soon as possible to complete what they were doing. Which of the following would best solve this urgent situation? You would notice I put the word best in capital letters there, guys. That's because I want to see if you understand that there's more than one answer that may or may not be correct here. Looking at answer A, configure a VPN. Guys, that's completely unrelated. So our user or our client here has lost internet connectivity. They need to get back online somehow. Configuring a VPN is not going to make any difference. A VPN is to go and teleport yourself, digitally speaking, somewhere you're not. It's a form of remote connect. But for that to work, you do need an existing internet connection. It doesn't provide you with an internet connection. It provides you with a remote connection to a remote site like the office. So it's absolutely not answer A. Answer B, use a USB cable. Now it's plausible depending on the context here. So you'll notice my answer just says use a USB cable. Very vague. So on its own, that can mean a lot of things. So that is why I said which of the following would best solve this problem. B is plausible. So if I outright said use a USB cable in a sense of tethering, because tethering can be done via Bluetooth or USB. And if you go and connect something like your phone to your computer via USB or via Bluetooth, that would be considered tethering, and you can provide that machine with internet. But you'll see answer B just says USB cable. What about it? It doesn't say, hey, use it as tethering. So it's plausible. Let's just say it's plausible. Answer C, configure a hotspot. Now that's pretty definitive, don't you guys think? B is plausible. I mean, it doesn't really say what I mean by USB cable. Am I meaning you should use tethering, or am I just saying USB cable there? But answer C says make a hotspot. So you can go and grab something like your phone, make a temporary hotspot, jump on that hotspot of your laptop, desktop, tablet, or phone, and there you go. You'll have a temporary internet connection just to finish whatever you were doing. So that is the answer, by the way. Looking at answer D, using NFC, near field communication. Not really used for internet purposes, guys. That is to go and communicate between, let's say, 2 phones, or a phone and a point of sale system, or a bank card and a point of sale system. It's not really used to provide internet. It's used to share small bits of information between something like a phone, for example. It's not really used for internet purposes. So the only definitive answer we've got here, guys, is C. Answer B being somewhat plausible, but C is definitely, that's a guarantee that's going to work. So the answer is C, folks. Question 40. You need to connect 1 or more devices to the internet in a SOHO environment. So SOHO is small office, home office environment. Which of the following devices would most likely allow you to achieve this. The word most is in capital letters there once again, guys. That means there's more than one possible answer. Right, so we need to connect multiple devices to the internet. Could it be answer A? Now, answer A, being a wireless access point, is used to connect people to the internet, but that could also just be used to give people access to a network wirelessly. It doesn't mean there's internet on that network. It could be that maybe I've got a home or office network. In this case, it's a small office network. But this network does not have internet connectivity. It's just a small little network. And the access point could then be used just to connect people to this small network wirelessly. It doesn't mean it'll give you internet access necessarily. It could not. It depends on whether there is internet on this network already. So which one would provide you with internet access? Is that a hub? No, guys. A hub is just another way to connect you to an existing network. It's not the world's smartest device. We in fact call this a dumb device. It broadcasts out of all of its ports, but in a nutshell, if you plugged into the same hub, you're on the same network, but it's not used to provide someone with internet access per se. Answer C. A router, or as the Americans call it, a router. Yes, guys, that is the answer here. A router is normally located on the edge of your network, on the edge of your home network, your small office network, or quite frankly, your big, large enterprise network. It is used to route your traffic across the internet. It is used to provide you with internet access. It's essentially what links you, your private network, with your ISP, the outside world, guys. So a router is absolutely needed. So if you have something like an access point, if we look at answer A, you would still need a router somewhere in the network to be able to give people internet access. If you have a hub, yes, a hub can connect people, and if there is existing internet on the network, it can help aid with giving people internet access, but it's not definitive. A router is pretty set. A router, you can go plug in directly into it. You can go and connect to it wirelessly in most cases. So that is definitely going to give someone internet access. But the other ones are all plausible. Looking at the last one, there's switch, which is very much the same can of worms as the hub there. You plug yourself into it, and well, obviously a switch is much smarter. But at the end of the day, you plug yourself into it, and assuming there is internet on the network, you could maybe be on the internet. But it doesn't mean there is internet. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. Answer C is the most likely one to allow you to achieve this. So technically speaking, all four of these could technically give you internet access. But if answer A, answer B, and answer D, it's plausible. Who's to say there's actually internet on that network? Nobody knows. But answer C is a guarantee. Alright guys, moving on to question number 41. With which of the following types of cloud does a user have the least amount of control? Now, all three of these answers I've got for you guys there, all three of them are examples of public cloud. Now, public cloud, this is essentially somewhere else on somebody else's property. And with all of these, we are definitely going to be losing some level of control. The question is, how much? How much do you still have, and how much are you actually going to be losing here? Now, looking at the three we've got here in front of us, which one do we have the least amount of control with? That, guys, would be the middle one. SaaS, Software as a Service. The one where you've got the most amount of control out of these three would be the bottom one, Infrastructure as a Service. So an example of that would be something like a virtual machine as an example. So if you go look at a virtual machine in the cloud, you can maybe not see or touch the physical hardware. And the same goes with the actual networking cables. You cannot see or touch the actual network cables or the switches and stuff. But other than that, you can go and choose the exact specs of your server or your computer. You can go and choose exactly how much RAM it needs to have, how much hard drive space, how fast your hard drive needs to be, what kind of hard drive it needs to be, how many processors you want. You can go and choose what operating system needs to be installed. So you've got full-on control of all of that stuff, guys. The only thing you cannot do or see is see or touch the actual physical hardware. So you cannot see or touch the actual motherboards, RAM chips, and stuff like that. And you cannot see or touch the actual network cables and switches and stuff. But other than that, you've got full-on control. Infrastructure as a Service being the bottom one, you have the most amount of control. The top one there, PaaS, Platform as a Service, is kind of in the middle. So you've got less control than Infrastructure as a Service, but you still have more control than software as a service. An example of platform as a service would be your Azure Active Directory, which they nowadays refer to as Entra ID. It is something that the average person like me and you don't want to do, and we don't have time to do, and a cloud provider went and did it for us, and they're selling it back to us as a solution. Active Directory would be one such example, guys. If you go look at the old school Active Directory on premises, it was a painstaking process. I wouldn't say it was rocket science, absolutely not, anyone can do it, but it does take flippin' forever to get it done. Where in the cloud, you just need to prove you own a certain domain, and boopity bop, you're up and running. You can literally go and jump in and start creating user accounts, start creating groups and all that. So the cloud provider literally went and checked what is there out there that people don't want to do, they don't have the time to do. They then go and do it for us, and they sell it back to us as a solution. It's actually pretty brilliant if you think about it. So that, guys, is the concept of platform as a service. As for software as a service, which we now know is the answer here, guys, that is of course the one where we've got the least amount of control. Any software application would normally be installed on your machine or the client's machine would now be installed and running somewhere else on the cloud provider's machine. So in this case, it could possibly be Microsoft, maybe even Amazon. It's running on their servers, it's installed there, and it's just being rendered back to you or the user as a service. Via the internet, via something like a browser possibly. So the benefits here is the users do not need a lot of storage because this is installed somewhere else. They also don't have to worry about any other compatibility requirements like RAM and processing power because essentially this is running somewhere else. It is installed somewhere else. It's just displaying on the user's machine. So all they need is a good internet connection and a screen. That's it. Anyway, guys, so answer B is the answer. Question number 42. One of your clients wants to connect their smartphone to their laptop. Which of the following networks will the client be creating if they connect their phone to, well, their laptop? Are they creating a LAN, local area network? No, guys. For a local area network, you need at least 2 or more computers. Normally, a LAN would reside in the same building. Normally, it's not set in stone, but most commonly these will be found in one building, generally between 2 machines up to, I don't know, maybe a couple of 100 machines. But it is possible for this to extend beyond multiple buildings and possibly exceed a couple of thousand users. Very possible that that can happen. It's not normally what happens, but it is very possible that that can happen. Now, this user wants to only connect their phone, not another computer, their phone to their own laptop. What is that called? We know it's not answer A. Is it possibly answer B? Yes, guys. Answer B is personal area network. Think of it this way. Imagine you've got a desk in front of you, and on that desk, you've got a laptop or a desktop computer. Pretty much anything that's within arm's reach is part of your PAN, your personal area network. So if you go and connect something like your phone or your tablet wirelessly or via wire to your machine, that forms part of your PAN. If you go and connect your printer to your laptop or desktop, and this printer happens to be one of those small ones that you can put on your desk, that's still technically part of your personal area network. But should I go and add one extra computer to the mix that's on a different desk now? Yeah, guys, now you've got yourself a LAN. So personal area network is probably one of the most common networks you get. People just don't know about it because nobody ever talks about it. Everybody thinks a LAN is the most common network, but the fact of the matter is a PAN is probably the most common network you actually get. Then we know we've got answer C and D there. We know the answer is B. C is a metropolitan area network. Generally will be within a city. It's not limited to that, but generally you'll find this across a city. So maybe this company or this business has multiple branches, multiple buildings possibly. One will be on the one side of town and the other one will be on the other side of town. And they're linked to one another with an internal network. Often these will be a wireless network. So the one building will have a dish up on its roof pointing towards the other building. And the other building will of course have a dish up on its roof pointing to the first building. Now depending on how far these buildings are apart, they may or may not need some repeaters in between, but that's besides the point here. If we look at answer D, guys, WLAN, that is a wireless LAN. Pretty much the exact same thing as answer A there, except A is not limited to wireless devices. If I just say LAN, that's a mix of machines that's connected via cable, LAN cables like Cat5, Cat6, and so on, as well as machines that are connected wirelessly. It's a mix. But if I say wireless LAN, we know it's exclusively just devices that are connecting wirelessly. So in a certain sense, I suppose you could technically say that's a smaller network, but it's still a LAN. It's just limited to wireless. Alright folks, moving you guys along to question 43 here. One of your clients reports that the date and time on their computer resets every time after a reboot or a shutdown. When the computer starts, it does not load the operating system, and it just stays on a black screen with a message that says date and time is not set, and that they need to go and press F1 to run setup. Which of the following is most likely the problem? Is it answer A, the motherboard is faulty? No, guys. Is it answer B, the CMOS battery is flat? Yes, that is the answer. Now folks, what's happening here is this machine doesn't want to boot properly because it's unable to remember the date and the time. It doesn't mean you can't start. You'll find often these machines can technically still start. It's just a huge mission of note to get them to start up, but it is still possible to get them to start up in most cases. It's just really annoying and really inconvenient. Now when a CMOS battery is flat, the machine cannot remember the boot order, first of all, what device it needs to look on first for something bootable. It also cannot remember the date and the time, and it'll obviously not remember the BIOS password if there was any to begin with. Now normally there'll be symptoms to this. So normally long before the battery becomes flat, something that we call time drift will start occurring. So ever so often you'll find that the clock is now slowly but surely falling behind. So maybe it's 7 o'clock in the evening, but the clock shows it's now 6:45 perhaps in the evening. It's about 50 minutes behind. And every 2 or 3 days, it'll just fall behind again. It doesn't matter if you go and correct it. It'll just keep falling behind again. And gradually, slowly but surely, it'll start falling behind more and more and more each time. So that is a symptom of the battery becoming flat. But normally you can start noticing this. We call that time drift. So for it to get to this point where it just doesn't want to even start up anymore, where it just doesn't even remember the date and time at all anymore, somebody really had to leave this problem a long time without reporting it. End of the day, guys, all that needs to be done here is you just need to replace the CMOS battery on the motherboard. It's that small coin cell battery, and you'll see the problem's going to go away. You'll be able to set the date and the time just once more, and the problem's going to go away. If we look at answer C, a faulty hard drive, well, if it's a secondary drive, just nothing won't happen. You'll just see that it doesn't get picked up by Windows. If it's your main hard drive that's faulty, it might pop up a little message that says no boot device found, and that's the last thing we want to normally see. Answer D is just something totally random I added there. There's no way another PC on the network can prevent this one from starting up. You can maybe get something like an IP address conflict, which will, kick each other off the network, but it's not going to prevent the machine from starting up. If we look at answer A, if the motherboard was faulty, this machine wouldn't start at all. If you press the power button, nothing would happen. Now this machine is able to start, it just doesn't want to boot all the way. So that means the motherboard is still good. It's something else that's wrong, and in this case, it's the battery. Question 44. Now guys, before I proceed any further, if you are looking for more practical based questions, these are theory based questions, you can find that on my Patreon. So just go check out the link in my video description down below. There you can find more practical based questions if that's what you're looking for. I've seen the guys have been asking me for some of that. Anyway, so one of your clients reports that their desktop computer does not start and that it makes a beeping sound of sorts when they try to start it. Which of the following components can cause a beep code if faulty? Now you would remember this is something we discussed just a couple of questions ago. Which components are able to cause a beep code and which ones will not cause a beep code? Hopefully you guys paid attention. So looking at the list down below, guys, I've got 5 answers here. And I did actually give you the answer to this question a couple of questions ago, where I told you exactly which components will not generate a beep code. So, if we look at answer A, will that generate a beep code? Yes, guys. If you have a faulty CPU, you'll get a beep code. So far, answer A is correct. I'm not going to highlight all the answers just yet because, well, then you're going to see what the answers are. If we look at answer B, RAM. If you've got a fault with your RAM, will you receive a BIOS beeping code? Yes, folks. So far, both answer A and B is correct. Notice I did not specify how many answers are correct. I just said choose all that apply. So it could just be those two, or it could be all of them that are correct. Who knows? If we look at answer C, the motherboard. If you have a faulty motherboard, will you receive a BIOS beeping code? No, guys, you will not. Remember, as I said previously in one of the previous questions, the motherboard is where the speaker is that generates the code. So if you have a faulty motherboard, how do you expect it to make the beeping code if it is the component that's faulty? It's not going to make a beeping code. So answer C, no, cannot generate a beeping code. If we look at answer D, power supply unit. Can that generate a beeping code if it's faulty? No, guys. If the power supply is faulty, there's no power. And if there's no power, no beeping code. So far, only answer A and B is correct. C and D is incorrect. Looking at answer E, the hard drive. Will it generate a beeping code? No, guys, it will not. So if your secondary hard drives are faulty, you just won't see them in Windows. You just won't see them. You'll see they're missing. If your main hard drive is faulty, you also won't get a beeping code. Instead, it'll just display a message that says no boot device found. That's it. But no beeping code will occur. So the answers is A and B. Moving to question 45, folks. One of your clients report they are facing a problem with a lot of paper and ink being wasted because of people leaving print jobs at the printer or because of printing double due to others taking their print jobs. Which of the following would best solve this problem? Is it answer A, enable duplex printing to reduce paper usage? Well, yeah, guys, that will kind of, reduce your paper usage, not your ink usage. At the end of the day, you're still printing the same amount, so you'll be printing on both sides of a page instead of single-sided. But the same amount of ink will be used, it's just, less paper will be wasted. So far, A is plausible, but I did say best solve the problem. So let's have a look at the other ones first. Answer B, send a friendly reminder to all the users not to print unnecessarily. Also plausible, but we know a lot of people tend to ignore those, and who knows, maybe they didn't even receive these notifications. So both A and B plausible. Answer C, require a code or a badge before releasing a print job. Yes, guys, so far that's the better answer here. How this works is somebody's print job will not be printed until they get to the printer. They have to enter a code of sorts, like normally it'll be a 4-digit PIN. Only after entering the unique employee code will the print job start printing. So this way, nobody will ever take their print job. And what's also great about this is it actually prevents people from just wasting paper and ink as well. Not in the sense of taking each other's print jobs, but just printing random stuff. Because now, if we suddenly see all the paper and ink goes missing, we can actually go check in the logs and we can see exactly whose username is the one that's been printing so much. So we can see, oh, it was Bob in the admin department was printing so much. And then we can go and query Bob and ask Bob, hey Bob, why were you printing so much? And if it turns out to be for stuff that's got nothing to do with work, then, obviously there's going to be consequences. And then, of course, even if it turns out to be for work, and let's say we find that Bob is just printing unnecessarily, then maybe we can help Bob, to obviously print less and waste less stuff. So the answer is C, guys, but if we look at answer D, buy only a limited amount of ink and paper. You can, but at the end of the day, you're going to get people that's just going to be wasting paper and ink on random stuff. And then you're going to get other employees that are going to come along. They legitimately need to print legitimate work, and now there's just no ink and paper. So, yes, you'll only be using a certain set amount of ink and paper, but work is not going to get done now. So you're actually going to cause another problem. You'll solve one problem, but in turn, you're going to create another big problem. So it's not a viable solution. A and B is probably the second best answers here, about the same. D is the least viable answer here, guys. C is the best. Right, question number 46. One of your clients report that they can't seem to reach more than 100 megabits per second transfer rate on one of their computers. They confirm they are using a gigabit LAN card and the network cable is only 70 meters long, so it's not more than 100 meters. During your troubleshooting, you notice the cable they are using is the problem. So the cable seems to be the problem. Which of the following cables is the computer using? So basically what I'm saying here, guys, is these people are using a cable that is too slow. And I want to see if you guys can figure out what kind of cable they're using. Which one of these 4 cables that I've got listed for you guys down below will limit this user to only 100 megabits per second? Is it answer A, Cat5? Yes, guys. If you go look at normal Cat5, it's got a maximum throughput of 100 megabits per second. If you look at Cat5e, I think to help with this, let me just go and add the metrics here for you guys. There we go. If you look at Cat5e, guys, 1,000 megabits per second. In other words, 1 gig. So visually the cable will look the same, it'll feel the same, but it transfers at 10 times the speed of a normal Cat5 cable. If you look at Cat6, guys, that will be 1,000 megabits per second as well, or 1 gig. Now, before we have a keyboard warrior here jumping in the comment section down below and says, hey, I know Cat6 can also go 10 gigabits per second. Yes, that will be the Cat6 that goes only up to 50 meters, guys. So please get your facts straight before you start dropping comments down below like that. If you go check your manual, if you go check online, you get 2 variations of Cat6. One of them only goes up to 50 meters, but that bad boy can go up to 10 gigabits per second. The other one can only go up to 1,000 megabits per second, or 1 gig per second, but it can go up to 100 meters in length. So there's a clear difference there. If you look at the question above, it says they confirm they are using a gigabit LAN card, yes, 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 and that the network cable is only 70 meters long. So we need a cable that's at least 70 meters long. So if I was going to go and use the Cat6 that's going to go up to 10 gigabits per second, it would not work because the cable would be too short, guys. So we have to use something that can go up to 100 meters. So that would be the normal Cat6, and the normal Cat6 can only go up to 1 gigabit per second. Yes. If we look at Cat6A, guys, that is up to a speed of 10 gigabits per second, and it can go up to 100 meters. Anyway, the answer here, guys, is Cat5. That is what's causing the restriction here at the moment. Alright, moving on. Question 47. One of your clients wants to move his company's servers, firewalls, routers, and switches to the cloud. This would basically be a virtual data center. Pretty cool, right? Now, which of the following types of cloud would allow your client to achieve this? So when we say we want to move all our hardware to the cloud, guys, what kind of cloud is that? Is it answer A, NAAS, something I haven't mentioned in this video before yet? That is network as a service, guys. You're basically just renting networking services and stuff from the cloud provider. So yeah, we've seen in the question here, it's not just networking services. They want to move this stuff to the cloud, not just rent, move this stuff. And it's not just networking services. This is servers in general as well. You can see there they mentioned servers. So it's definitely not answer A. Answer B, software as a service, you would remember is the one where we've got the least amount of control. So that would be software that's installed and running on a cloud provider's end, and it's just displaying to the user. So the user has got absolute minimal control there. So it's definitely not answer B. We want to move all our stuff to the cloud, not just applications, servers, firewalls, routers, switches, everything to the cloud. Could that possibly be answer C, platform as a service? Now we do have more control of that one there, but it's not quite going to meet our needs yet, guys. Platform as a service is just going to give us things like an Active Directory or SQL in the cloud. It's not going to meet all of our needs here. So at the end of the day, for us to meet all of these needs, we need to use infrastructure as a service, which is answer D. Remember, that's the one where we've got the most amount of control. It's almost as if the stuff is still running on premises, except it's just occupying space on the cloud provider's servers and all that. You can't physically touch the servers, you can't physically see them, but other than that, it's pretty much the same as having it on premises, guys. So your answer here is going to be D. Question 48. One of the following options should not be connected to a UPS. So that would be an uninterruptible power supply. Which of the following devices should not be connected to a UPS? Is it answer A, computers? No, guys, that's probably one of the most common things we're going to be connecting to a UPS. That's 10 to 1, one of the main reasons why you got the frequent UPS. So it's not answer A, it's not computers. Computers, you should definitely connect to a UPS. Is it the monitors? No, guys, think about it. If you are going to be connecting your computer to the UPS, surely you need to connect the monitor as well. Otherwise, what's the point? You're not going to be able to see what's going on the computer. Why would I want to go and connect my computer to UPS and not be able to see what's going on it? So answer A and B is both things you can go and connect to UPS, and it's going to be safe. They're not going to draw too much power. Answer C, laser printers. Now guys, you can go and connect printers to a UPS or an inverter or whatever, but generally we try and avoid laser printers specifically. In case you guys don't know, laser printers consume an enormous amount of electricity. It's really not something you want to go and do on a UPS. It's going to put tremendous amounts of strain on your UPS, which is a battery backup essentially. So in case you didn't know, laser printers is something we normally try and avoid putting on UPS. I know there are some people out there that might go and connect a laser printer to it, but those are normally huge UPSs, but still, you should try and avoid it. If we look at answer D, speakers. Now that's something you don't have to go and connect. Maybe you need it for a conference call or something. But if you don't need it for a conference call or something important, I would suggest you actually leave the speakers out. It's not going to make a huge difference, but at the end of the day, it might actually, stretch your battery life a little bit longer on the UPS. Anyway, folks, the answer is C. That's the one you want to try and avoid plugging into a UPS. Question 49. Your client installs a new printer on the network and allows it to obtain an IP address. So in other words, it's getting one automatically from a DHCP. Your client makes a note of the IP address and sets up users' computers with this information. So he made a note of what the printer's IP address is, and then probably went and installed it as such on people's machines. The following day, people are unable to print and your client notices the printer's IP address has changed. What can you or the client do to resolve this issue? So why did the printer's IP address change? Well, guys, you have to remember we are using a DHCP. A DHCP will randomly dish out an IP address from its scope, from the range you've specified. Now, when it will do this is random in each company, but normally this is roughly after every 24 hours or so in the average company. So that's probably why they said the next day the IP address has changed. How can we solve this problem? So we need the PCs to know what the IP address of the printer is. If the printer is going to be changing its IP address every day because of the DHCP, that's going to be a problem because you might have to go and reinstall the printer every day or do something else that's quite drastic. So is it answer A? Statically assign the printer an IP address. You're going to go and manually assign it a fixed IP address that does not change. Is that a possible solution? Well, it might work in the short term, but there's a very big chance this is going to cause problems either immediately or in the long term, guys. Statically assigning IP addresses to printers normally causes a conflict later down the line. So we normally try and avoid that in medium to large size companies. Specifically, well, one of the reasons would probably be because of the IP address conflict stuff. It's going to kick the printer off the network as well as the other device that it's conflicting with. So it's not answer A. Answer B. Reconfigure the user's computer to use the new printer IP address. Well, that would solve the problem temporarily. It's a quick fix for that specific day. The next day, as soon as the printer changes its IP address again, it's again not going to work, and you're again going to have to go and do this. So do you really want to have to go and reinstall the printer every day on every computer that's printing to it? No, I think not. So B might work, but it's not the best option. Answer C. Reserve the printer's IP address on the DHCP. Yes, guys. Why? What that will do is you're going to have to go to the DHCP. Unfortunately, the DHCPs that's built into routers usually do not have this function. Some of them do. I've seen some of them do have this function, but usually the ones that come in a router do not have this functionality. So if you have an actual DHCP server at your company, yes, you can absolutely go and do this. So what you will have to go and do, folks, is you'll have to go and check what the MAC address of that printer is, also known as the physical address or the network address. Go check what that is. It doesn't change. It's a fixed address. And then on the DHCP server, you're going to go and type in the IP address that you want to go and reserve, along with the MAC address of that printer. Now from that point forward, the same IP address will always be dished out to the same device, in this case, the printer. So it's still receiving an IP address from the DHCP, so there's not going to be a conflict, you don't have to worry about that, but it will always receive the same IP address from the DHCP. Pretty cool, right? So that is the answer here. If we look at answer D, folks, configure MAC filtering on the network switch. That's got nothing to do with this, guys. It's got nothing to do with the question. That's a form of security. It's got nothing to do with a printer problem. Alright, moving on. Question 50. Which of the following IP addresses can be routed across the internet? So in other words, what I'm actually asking you guys here is, which of the following IP addresses is a public IP address? You'll notice this time around, I didn't just give you guys 4 IP addresses. I gave you 6. I'm really trying to test you guys on this because they will do the same in the actual exam. So it's best to understand the different kinds of IP addresses you get, guys. If we look at the first IP address, it starts with a 169.254. I have explained this before. If an IP address starts with 169.254, we call that a PIPA. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but it basically means you do not have an IP address. It means this machine is set to dynamic and it's unable to obtain an IP address for whatever reason. It's up to you to figure out why that might be. But it's absolutely not an IP address you can go and route across the internet. Quite frankly, you won't even be able to access resources locally. If we look at answer B, yes guys, that is a public IP address. Any IP address you do not recognize, that's a simple way of putting it, is normally a public IP address. So I'll get to answer B in just a second, but let me highlight that now for the time being. If we look at answer C, guys, that's a private IP address, but more specifically, it's by default seen as a Class C private IP address. Usually, 192.168.0 is by default seen and detected as Class C. So in other words, 22255. something. It's not set in stone. You can, of course, go and change it, but by default, it's seen and detected as Class C. If we look at answer D, that's also a private IP address, but that one is by default seen and detected as Class A. An IP that starts with 10.something.something.something is usually by default seen and detected as Class A. You can, of course, go and change that. The subnet for Class A will normally be 255.something.something.something. If we look at answer E, 127.0.0.1. That, folks, is a loopback IP. It's used to test things like your TCP IP stack. It's used for testing purposes. If we look at F, that is a private IP address, once again, but that is a Class B. So I've got a Class C, a Class A, and a Class B in here for you guys. F is seen and detected as Class B by default. So in other words, 2255.something.something. Now since we've gotten all the way down here to F, you've seen there's clear values for each kind of IP. Our PIPAs normally start with 169.254. Class Cs are normally 192.168.0. Class Bs are 172.16 something. Class As are 10.something.something. Loopback is 127.0.0.1. So those are pretty fixed values, if I have to put it like that. Anything you do not recognize that does not look familiar to an exam, in this case answer B, is a public IP address. So in this case, that is the public IP address. That is what you use outside your network to go and communicate with other devices across the internet. It's normally issued to you by your ISP, and it's the only routable IP address here. Well, routable across the internet, that is. Right, moving on. Question 51. Your client reports that their printer is printing with abnormally wide margins. So it's printing freaking wide, is what we're saying. You suspect the incorrect paper size might just be selected. So it might be an honest mistake. Somebody just went and clicked the wrong paper size. Now, where can you go and make paper size changes? Is the actual question here, guys. Is it answer A, the print queue? No, guys. The print queue is also known as your printer spooler. It just shows you documents that are in the queue that's ready to be printed. It's not where you go and change the printer size. Is it answer B, paper selector switch on the printer? Now, that's actually a thing, just in case you guys don't know. It's a real thing. but it's normally in the tray of some printers. Normally this is most commonly found in those big office printers. So if you go and pull open one of the trays and you go and insert paper, you'll find there's a paper size selector there that you can go and choose just to kind of get the paper on one side of the tray. So if it's A4 or A5 or A3, it'll keep it all nice and tidy in one side of the paper tray. But it does not actually tell the printer what kind of paper you are wanting to print with. It just kind of forces a certain kind of paper on one side of the tray there, but it doesn't actually tell the printer what kind of paper you're trying to print with. That will be a digital setting, guys. So it's not A, it's not B. So the answer C, manage sharing. Now, guys, that's got specifically to do with, well, sharing. It's kind of in the name. It's what's going to allow you to share this printer locally on a network if somebody else wants to print through your machine to your printer. So by process of elimination, you probably know the answer is D, and you are correct. Printing preferences, guys, is where you can find that. So if you go into your printers on your machine, right click on that printer, you'll find printing properties, printing preferences. So if you go to preferences, there you'll be able to choose the orientation. So do you want landscape or whatever? Do you want to print with A3, A4, A5? Do you want to print this as a draft? Do you want to print in color? If the printer has got color options. So that's your printing preferences. So the answer is D, folks. Question 52. When it comes to installing cabling in high fire risk areas, like ceilings, which of the following cables are best? Is it Cat 5? No, guys. Cat 5, that's a decent network cable. Well, at least in the old days. It's still slow. But it's not going to help with high fire risk, areas. So what we're looking for is a cable that is fire resistant. I might be giving the answer away here. And it also does not give off toxic gases when burning. So the kind of cable we're looking for, and I think I'm going to jump to the answer here with this one, is answer C, guys, plenum. It's specifically a kind of cable that you go and put in ceilings or in those hollow walls where we know for a fact it might be a high risk fire area. And should there be a fire later down the line, these cables, they're generally fire resistant. And if they happen to be in the fire, they will generally not give off any toxic gases. So I don't know why you want to use that, but today I think it's got to do with the country you're in. Some countries have got safety standards and safety codes and stuff like that. In my country, we don't care about stuff like that, but yeah, every country is different. Question 53. One of your clients has asked you to set an administrator password on the BIOS of all their computers. Which of the following would this achieve? So it's not a normal Windows password, guys. It's not the one that you would see if you press the power button. After a couple seconds, you land on a screen that asks you for a password, and then you land on the desktop. No, it's not that one. The average person would never get asked this password. They would not even be on the screen when a password gets asked. But if you try and go into the BIOS by pressing the F2 key or the delete key repeatedly when a machine starts, that's going to prompt this machine to try and go into the BIOS. And when they try and go into the BIOS, before they can see the BIOS or access the BIOS, it's going to ask them for a BIOS password. It's also known as a supervisor password, in case you guys don't know. It's got multiple names. Now, what would it achieve to put a BIOS password on a machine, and in this case on all the machines in this company? Does it prevent malware infecting the BIOS? No, guys. Malware will still go and infect your BIOS, irrespective of you having a password on it. Is it answer B? Prevents users from changing the startup or the booting order. Yes, that is a setting that you would find in the BIOS, but if your users can't go into the BIOS, it'll prevent them from changing the boot order. Maybe these users of yours are up to some sort of shenanigans. They're trying to reinstall the operating system or do something else, and it's going to prevent them from doing that. So B is in fact the correct answer. It's not answer C. Prevents the BIOS from updating. Your BIOS will update regardless of whether you've got a password on it or not. Answer D. Prevents USB storage devices from being used on a computer. No, guys. It is a setting that you can actually go and change in the BIOS, but putting a password in the BIOS is not going to affect this directly. You'll have to physically log into the BIOS, go and change it there. You can go and change it in a registry. You can go and change this via group policy. There's many ways you can go and prevent people from using USB devices. But putting a password on the BIOS is not going to prevent USB storage devices. That's not going to make any difference. Question 54. Which of the following devices would allow you to store data over a long period of time? Is it a CPU? Central Processing Unit? No, guys. That is a chip on your motherboard that does all the processing. It doesn't actually store information, ignoring the cache that's in it. But that's short-term memory. It's not going to store it over long periods of time. Is it RAM? RAM is a form of memory, but it's volatile memory. It's short-term memory, like the cache you would find inside a CPU. So as soon as you turn your PC off, anything that was in the RAM is now lost. It's going to forget whatever was in the RAM. And that applies to the CPU as well. Anything that was in the CPU's memory is now lost. Answer C, RGB. That is a kind of light that we normally put inside our keyboards and inside our computer cases and stuff. All those fancy lights you get, most commonly found in gaming cases. It's got nothing to do with storage, just FYI. Answer D, solid state drive. So SSD is a solid state drive. Guys, that is a form of hard drive, and it's used for long-term storage. So that is in fact the answer here, just in case you didn't figure it out. Answer E, GPU, graphics processing unit. That is a graphics card, and it's got nothing to do with, well, storing information long-term. It does have memory built into it, but just like the RAM and the CPU memory, it's temporary. So the only one that's going to be able to store data over a long period of time here, guys, is the hard drive, being the solid-state drive. That is answer D. Question 55. Which of the following is an example of volatile memory? If you guys paid attention in the previous question, you would know what the answer here is. So, is it answer A, external hard drive? No. Why? Because volatile memory, guys, it refers to things. Well, I almost gave the answer away there now for a second. Yo, wow, I had to think there for a moment. So volatile memory is memory that forgets what it had, or what it had stored, when power is lost. Who am I kidding, guys? I'm going to give you the answer. It's RAM. Let me put it this way. If you have a laptop or a desktop, guys, I think that's probably going to be better if I use a desktop PC as an example. Anything you have open on your computer, whether it be programs, games, files, documents, if you plug out the power cord while the machine was still running, and obviously the machine is going to turn off now, and you go and plug that power cord back in, will the programs, the games, or the files you had open, will they still be open? No. They're going to be closed. Why? Because it was in your RAM. Now, are those programs and games and documents lost? No. They're not lost because they're stored on your hard drive. Your hard drive is an example of non-volatile memory. Generally slow memory, but it's non-volatile. Non-volatile means even if power is lost, it does not forget the information that it's storing. RAM, on the other hand, much faster memory than hard drives normally, but it's volatile. So if it loses power, it forgets what it had. So the next time you start your PC back up, you'll have to go into your hard drive, double-click that game or that program or that file or document. It's going to open it again. It's going to load it back into your RAM momentarily until you close it, or until at least power is lost. So if we look at answer A, we know the answer is B now. External hard drive, guys, is non-volatile. So if power is lost, it's going to still remember the information. Answer C, an internal hard drive. In other words, a normal computer hard drive. If power is lost, it's still going to retain information. Answer D, a memory stick. Same story. Power is lost, still keeps the information. Memory card at the bottom, same story. Power is lost, keeps the information. The only component listed here, guys, which is going to forget the information if it loses power, is your RAM. Question 56. Which of the following is responsible for generating beeping codes? Alright, guys, so by now, because I've already discussed this like 2 times, maybe even 3 times in this video, what is that? You should definitely know it by now. Is it answer A, post? Yes. Post stands for power on self-test, guys. So when you press the power button on your computer, this is especially noticeable on a desktop PC, after about 2-3 seconds, you'll hear one short beep. That is the computer doing what we call a power on self-test. It's like a checklist that it follows to make sure various hardware components are present and that there are no working condition. So getting one short beep is a good sign. It means things are actually working. If you get no beep, it could mean the PC is not working either. Or if you get beeping codes, that's bad. It means something is not working. So we know the answer is A. B, we know that's RGB. I just told you guys 1 or 2 questions ago, that's a bunch of lights that you would normally find in a computer case or on your keyboard. All those various colors. If we look at answer C, Windows, guys, is not responsible for generating beeping codes. The post test is something that takes place before the computer even starts, before Windows even gets loaded into the RAM and all of that. So this is something that happens before Windows. The CMOS, well, that's not Windows. It's technically part of your motherboard, but still, that's not what generates the beeping codes, guys. That'll be your post that does it. Question 57. One of your clients reports that one of their users does not have a network connection. During your troubleshooting, you notice that the cable connection is down. You need to figure out which port it is plugged into on the patch panel. The patch panel is not labeled. So basically what we're trying to do here is we're trying to trace a cable from a person's PC to a network patch panel. Now from the PC itself, there it's pretty easy because there's probably just one cable lying around there. But where all the cables come together by a network cabinet, like a patch panel, there could be lots of cables there, guys. And to figure out which one is which is quite difficult. We normally can't just go and willy-nilly go and yank out cables because you could be unplugging something quite important. And I did specifically mention here that this patch panel is not labeled. So how can we figure out which one of those many cables at the patch panel is the one from that PC that's, well, just not working? Which one is it? How do we figure it out? Which of the following tools can you go and use? Is it a crimper? No, guys. A crimper is what you use to get an RJ45 connector onto a network cable, but it doesn't trace a cable. Is it B, a tone generator? Yes. I've actually asked you guys this question once before in this video, but I called it something else. I called it a toner probe. So it's called a toner probe, it's called a tone generator, it's got multiple names. So on one end of the cable, probably the end of the cable which is in the office by the PC, that end of the cable you're going to go and connect one part of this machine. It's the one that sends like a pulse or something through the cable. And then you're going to have like a little wand of you that you're going to carry with you. And you're going to trace this cable. Every time that wand comes near the cable, it's going to generate a tone. A beeping tone. Hence the name, tone generator. So yeah, the answer is in fact B here, guys. And multimeter is something we generally use as electricians. So you guys are not electricians. It doesn't mean you can't use it, but generally that's something you'll find an electrician go and use. So it's used to measure volts, measure amps, measure resistance, things like that. If we look at answer D, a punch down tool, similar to the crimper. So a crimper is used to get a connector onto a cable. A punch down tool is used to get the wall box onto a cable or to get the cable in the back of a patch panel. Anyway, folks, the answer is B. Question 58. Which of the following connectors are fiber cable connectors? I've asked you guys something similar before, way in the beginning of this video. And I did say in the beginning of this video that I was going to ask you guys this again. Now in terms of fiber cable connectors, guys, there's multiple ones. Many, in fact. But in the A+ course, we do not cover them all. And in the A+ exam, they do not ask you them all. But if you are going to go and do the Network Plus course, and if you were to go and write that exam, you definitely need to know them all, guys. All of them will get covered in that course, and all of them will be asked in that specific exam. Lucky for you, at A+ level, you only need to know, well, 3. I think I'm giving you part of the answer now. So my question says choose all that apply, but I just told you guys there's 3 of them. 3 of them that gets covered in A+ level, and 3 of them that will be asked about in the A+ exam. Now the question is, did I list those 3 between these 6 possible answers? Maybe I did, maybe I did not. If we look at answer A, guys, ST, that stands for straight tip. And that is indeed one of the fiber connectors you need to know. That's part of the answer. If we look at answer B, B and C, that's a coaxial cable connector, not part of our answer. Answer C, LC, yes, fiber cable connector, and it's part of the answer. If we look at answer D, RJ45, that's a cable for normal LAN cables, Cat5, 5E, Cat6, Cat6A, and so on. So that's not a fiber cable connector. It's not part of the answer. Answer E, SC, yes, fiber cable connector. So there we go. We've now located all 3 fiber cable connectors. All 3 of those are the answer. So there we go. You can see the answers. And the last one there, guys, is for normal telephone. So that's an RJ11. We go put that onto telephone cables. Now, like I said in the beginning of this question, guys, there is in fact more than just these free fiber cable connectors. You don't need to know those for the A+ exam though. So there's a trick you can do in the A+ exam, but only do this in A+ exam. Do not try this in N+ or any other course. So if you get a question exam and I ask you, please identify all the fiber cable connectors. Now obviously we know there's multiple ones, and the chances are you might not remember them all. A trick I can give you guys here is just choose anything that's got 2 letters. And if you do that in the exam, you're guaranteed to choose all the fiber cable connectors correct. It only works in A+. If you look at the other fiber cable connectors, they're not just 2 letters. They're way more than that. Now these 2 letters for each of these 3, they do actually stand for something, but they never give you the full name in the exam. Specifically, these 3 connectors are always shown as just 2 letters in the A+ exam. So if you find yourself in that pickle where you just can't remember which ones are fiber, just choose anything of 2 letters and you're actually going to get your answer correct. Do not try that in N+ though. Question 59. Which of the following is the type of address a device would receive from a DHCP? Alright, so guys, would you receive a MAC address from your DHCP? No. A MAC address is also known as your physical address, and it's physically embedded in your network card. It's something we generally say that can't be changed. Well, technically you can go and change it, but people say you cannot. It's your hardware address. That's another name for it. It's definitely not something you're going to get from a DHCP though. Is it a static address? A static IP address is actually the correct term here. No. A static IP is also known as a fixed IP, or in some rare cases, a manual IP. It is something that you or the user will go and configure manually on a device. It's going to stay on that until you or somebody goes and changes it one day. It is not something you receive from a DHCP though. Answer C. A dynamic address, or should I say dynamic IP address. Yes, that is the answer, folks. That is the kind of IP address you or your device would receive from the DHCP. It's normally allocated from the scope. So your DHCP consists of a scope, or some people call this a range. It's like a pool of available IP addresses, and from that pool of available IP addresses, your device or the user's device will randomly get one from there. That is a dynamic IP address. It normally expires after a certain period of time, because it depends on how long they've made the lease, but on average it's about 24 hours. After 24 hours this IP address expires and you cannot use it anymore. So we know the answer is C, but if you're looking at answer D there, a pipa, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly because people always tell me I pronounced it incorrectly, but it's fine, as long as you know what I mean. So that, guys, is the one that starts with 169.254.something.something. It means you don't have an IP address. This device is configured for dynamic IP address, but it's unable to obtain one for whatever reason. That's when you get this a pipa IP address. Alright folks, and then question number 60, the last one for this specific video. I will be making a version 2 video for core 2 as well, and there's probably going to be a version 3 as well for both core 1 and 2. If you want more practical based questions, you can go check out my Patreon, guys. So on Patreon you'll find more practical based questions. You can find the link to my Patreon in the video description down below. Alright, so which of the following cloud terms refers to only paying for what you use? Now this, guys, is something in the cloud. The cloud consists of many benefits, functions and features. So we have actually covered this before in the video, but I did not want to put this question too close to the other one, otherwise you guys are going to be, well, you're going to remember what the answer is. I want to see if I can catch you guys for a bit of a curveball, because by now you probably don't even remember what question number it was. So A, rapid elasticity, refers to the fact that you can very quickly upscale or downscale in the cloud. So if I need more RAM in a server, for example, I can nearly instantaneously add more RAM. If I suddenly need less, you can go make it less, nearly instantaneously. On premises, you've got to arrange downtime. You've got to get the budget approved. You've got to wait for the parts to arrive, and. It's going to take forever and a day, and there's going to be so many consequences to that. So, but it does not refer to the fact that you only pay for what you use, though. If we look at answer B, metered. Yes, guys. In a cloud, like the question says, you only pay for what you use, and we call that metered in a cloud. It's not specifically of just one cloud provider. So if you look at something like Microsoft, it's not just of Microsoft. All the other ones do that too. So if you're not using something, you can turn it off. You'll either pay a lot less for it or not for it at all. Alternatively, you can go and delete that something. If it doesn't exist, then you don't pay for it. As simple as that. So the answer is in fact B here, guys. Resource pooling, which has been explained before, is the fact that you are sharing resources with other entities out there. So if you're hosting something on a server of your cloud provider, that server on which your stuff is being hosted is being shared by you and other entities. And if you, of course, want a dedicated server, you can go and throw some money at the problem. You can go get yourself a dedicated server. But generally, guys, it's not needed. Answer D, high availability. That refers to the fact that everything in the cloud is very, very highly available. It doesn't mean we do not have it on premises, but on premises it's very difficult, very expensive to go and achieve that. The cloud, platforms like Microsoft, gives you a 99.9% uptime guarantee. Now, I don't have a calculator right now, but it equals to about 4 or 8 hours downtime per year. Might sound like a lot to you, but trust me, guys, that is nothing. Realistically, in real life, if you look at on-premises, your servers are down constantly. It's down here for 10 minutes, down there for 30 minutes, down there for an hour because of an update, because of something that broke, because of an upgrade that needs to happen, something that broke. So at the end of the day, if you go add up all that downtime, it adds up to days, weeks even sometimes. So saying that your servers will only be down for 4 to 8 hours per year is amazing. Trust me, it is. And realistically, it probably won't even be down at all. They just have to say 99.9%. Otherwise, they can get sued. Anyway, folks, I really, truly hope you've learned something from today's video. This is a long one, but I do go into a lot of detail. Like I said, there will be more videos like this. So if you'd like to see those, maybe subscribe. I did put a lot of effort into this video, so I would really appreciate it if you guys give this video a like. And if you'd like to attend the actual course, I do have the actual course on my channel as well. So maybe go check it out. So if you want to attend the actual course, instead of just doing questions, go check out my channel. I've got the full course on my channel there as well, guys. It consists of 22 modules if you want to do the 1200 series. The first 10 modules is Core 1. And then from Module 11 all the way to Module 22 would be Core 2. Just in case you're looking for something specific. In each video's description of those modules, you'll find a long list of topics with nice convenient timestamps if you're looking for something specific. So that should really make your life a lot easier if you're studying or if you just want to go and recap on something specific. Anyway, guys, so just a shout out and thank you to all the supporters and sponsors of this channel. Thank you very much, guys. I really do appreciate it. So if you do decide to make a donation by clicking on the thanks button below the video, if it's available in your country, thank you very much, guys. To all of those of you buying me coffees or milkshakes, that's available in the video description down below if you want to do that too. Thank you very much. To all of you doing PayPal donations in the background, there's a list of you guys. Thank you very much, guys. And then let's not forget the Patreons. There is thousands of you guys, but unfortunately majority of you guys decide to stay anonymous. So if you do decide to become a Patreon, guys, you have the option to have your name displayed here if you are a paid Patreon. You can become a free one, but if you are a paid one, you can have your name displayed here. You can choose the name that gets displayed. Alternatively, like most people, you can just decide to stay anonymous if you want to. Lastly, folks, the channel does have a Discord server. Also consists of thousands of people on there. I'm on there. Other IT trainers are on there. Lots of people studying for A+ and other courses are on there. So if you want to ask questions, you can ask it there. There'll definitely be somebody that'll be there to be able to assist you. If you want to help other people with their questions, if you want to be in a study group, it's all there. And it's completely for free. Alright, folks, I will see you in the next video. Enjoy.